education and representatives from education, and also all the stakeholders, like states, central universities, for chancellors, and new state tech department education, still the labor, all the delegates today's warm welcome to you once again. This is an important activity which basically we are trying to present draft report of the national debate. So it's prepared by the high level institute committee chaired by Dr. N.S. Kurz, chairperson ACWeb, having members from MSD, CBS, UAE, UGC, NUS, AICTE, and NCA. This document is with regard to the implementation and applications. We all know we are doing from July. This document basically addresses, emphasizes on unified credit framework for integration of vocational education skilling into school and higher education. So it encompasses from school to PhD. Establishing academic equivalence between vocational and technical education is a critical factor that has been attempted. Credit accumulation and transfer system, academic bank credits are going to be part of this in the next phase. The document basically proposes national learning awards, notional learning awards, the number of credits per year one has to take, especially for that. So the resource persons actually will take a detail. As we all know, at our Ministry of Technology, we are a little ahead in the implementation of the. So I have requested my dear friend Krishna to give a presentation on the credit system what we are following. A lot of similarities. And I would like to also share brief information about how we have implemented or trying to implement the National Education Policy 2020 at Indian Institute of Technology. So as we know that today we have expanded to multi-disciplinary education options. So we all know that in 1960s these IITs were expanded, including and another 4 IITs. What basically elite engineering colleges that time. Maybe by 2000, 2005, all of these have become truly multi-disciplinary research universities. I think that if I say that, it's going to be a correct representation of the IITs, how they have really evolved over the last 50 years. This IIT Gauhati started in 1990. Actually, the first program started in 1995. We were having our classes in Bombas in the city. And people used to travel almost like 30 kilometers from there to come and teach, and we established the temporary campus there in the 60s. But finally, our campus was ready maybe by 2000. Means we have completed 20 years of existence. However, in fact, our campus fully functional. So we have last 2.5 years. I joined in July 2019 from Indian Resources Bangalore. We have started expanding into other institutions. One is we have started a school of business. We have an MBA program as well as a minor program for all our undergraduate 1,000 undergraduate students, both BTech and BS through JEAs. They have an option for minoring in business development so that there could be a job newer than job seekers. In addition to that, we have also started School of Health Science and School of Data Science and Automation, School of Energy Science and Engineering, and School of Agro. All these 5 schools were started in the last 2 years, 4.5 years, during the pandemic. And out of these, I think 2 schools have an undergraduate through JEE, that is Energy Science and Engineering, as well as the Data Science. the first program. Actually, School of Data Science and School of Health Science were supported by philanthropists from Wales. So we have named actually both the schools. One on his parents and one on his foundation. And the family foundation, School of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, and Jyoti and Data School of Health Science. I'm very glad to tell you that in the area of healthcare, we started School of Health Science. We made a decision. State government is committed to build a hospital inside the campus, 350-bedded postgraduate teaching hospital. We have been constructed. We have already formed a Section 8 company with the government of Assam, and cabinet of the government of Assam has approved 545 crores for constructing the hospital and also maintaining it. So this is a very, very unique partnership between government of Assam and any of the IITs. In the country is the first and foremost of that kind. Our School of Energy Science, I already told you, we have a BTech program started with energy science and engineering. Which is also quite popular. So in addition to that, we have expanded our research activities and our research and also expanded our activities to startups and then co-location of industries and our research part funded by the Ministry of Education. We have already about 26 companies co-located. Significant ones are, Quirkinos, which is a cancer related, cancer related one, is actually 2,000 square meters of space. They will have host nearly 30 scientists in the campus with complete wet labs. So it's a very unique. So by December, that's also going. Similarly, we have our faculty has transferred more than 25 technologies, even up to technologies, which is a very unique again. Out of that, one of the products where Mr. Vimal Mandal is sitting right here has been endorsed by none other than the ambassador. Kareena Kapoor has endorsed the product which is being manufactured. So I can go on, but stop on that. Activities and today we are going to look at various options. So we have also made a sort of a compulsory internship for our BTech students. All BTech students in their 6th semester can go on 2 months, 2 to 3 months internship. Could be paid some certifications. So that's also been lately. And to tell you, even though we are so far away from the mainland, we are having about 2% of the boundary is actually shared with India, the Northeast, when compared to British boundary is international boundary. But our placement this time, IIT Guwahati placement is number 1 as per the India Today institution. In the 26 lakhs average salary, with 89% plus undergraduates placed. And this year again, already 400 plus pre-placement offers. So what I would like to just highlight to you is location no more significance. The Ministry of actually taken over IIT Bombay, Delhi in the placement. That is a very, very significant achievement actually of the IIT Bombay students. So coming to the flexibility of curriculum, we have introduced a lot of flexibility and we have empowered our faculty
The key point may be due as for the guidelines of academic ban of critics for entry or admission in school, either technical or vocational education program courses at multiple levels, enabling horizontal and vertical mobility with various lateral entry options. The critics may also do to teaching level for easy verification and portability. NGRF also enables implementations of experimental learning, including relevant experience and professional level effort. The blended learning option shall also enhance accessibility of learning in Indian language for 90% non-English medium students as well as for the young. NCRF will enhance internationalization of education through credit transfer provisions, thus enabling wider international equivalence, recognition, and acceptance of Indian education by students by other countries, promoting excellence with foreign universities and institutions. From the above seven features, it may be seen that the NCR purposes for reaching reforms and will empower institutions with flexibility required for catering to specific academic requirements for creating imaginative and flexible curricular structure, collective combination of discipline and other special needs. Thus, NCRF shall not only enable effective implementation of National Education Policy 2020 through integration of various policy endeavors under general education and vocational education, but will also be a game changer to establish a benchmark for holistic education and learning integrated with skill by removal of barriers, infusion of flexibility, and creating lifelong learning opportunities. NCRF will enable transformation of India by providing high quality education opportunities integrated with effective skill to lead the demographic dividend, making education and skilling truly aspirational. Hence, I request all the stakeholders to work through the subsequent presentations and draft NCRF placed in the public domain on 19 October 2022 and furnished their comments by the stipulated date of 30th November 2022 to enable us to finalize this important document of National Lead Framework. Thank you all. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
On behalf of IIT Guwahati, on behalf of all the resources and delegates present here, I would like to gratitude to the Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Education, Government of India, Rashtrapati Ranjan Singh, for being on the press. May I now request Dr. Vinita Agarwal to kindly come to the podium and make the presentation of the draft national grant framework, please.
So good morning, everyone, to this regional consultation on the draft National Credit Framework. I'm sure you are all aware that this document is presently open for public consultation, and we hope that you all have gone through this document. Today, I will just highlight some of the salient features of this document to enable better understanding. And I will go through this presentation and I will request you all to hold on to your questions, and questions can be, there is a session for questions later on. So after the presentation is complete, we can take questions and answers. Thank you. So the National Education Policy of 2020 has a very transformative approach. It has some very different kind of features. That is why it is called transformative. First, it talks about integration of skilling with general education, academic education, and it talks about removing any kind of distinction between the two. Another important aspect is that of multiple entry and exit. It says that provisions should be made for multiple entry and exit to facilitate mobility between general and vocational education and vice versa. Then it also talks about multidisciplinarity, providing flexible curricular structure so that a student, if he wants to pursue, along with physics, suppose he wants to do history, so he should be permitted to do that. So some kind of provision should exist for this kind of flexible structures. Then a very important part is that it talks about assigning credits for learning. So assigning credits, their accumulation, their storage in an academic bank of credit, and then transfer and redemption of these credits. It also talks, basically, therefore, it talks about lifelong learning. And it also talks about, in some way, that how we can internationalize our education so that there is a better exchange with the foreign universities and foreign institutions. So, to achieve this vision and objectives of the NUP, the National Credit Framework has been developed. And this, as has already been mentioned, has been developed jointly by UGC, AICTE, NCVT, NCRT, CBSE, NIOS, along with the Departments of School Education, Higher Education, and the Ministry of Skill Development. So the NCVT, the main thing that, the NCRF, the main thing it talks about is it provides a framework for creditization of all forms of learning, whether it comes from the academic stream or the vocational stream or through experiential learning. And it seeks to achieve all that has been laid down in the National Education Policy, which I just mentioned, like removing distinction between the two and all kind of flexibility, MIMI options, so that a student can define his or her own learning trajectory. How and what they want to study, they can decide on their own. Another point which I would like to draw your attention to, that it also provides for, it also makes a provision for making academic, technical, and vocational education available in Indian languages so that a large number of students who are non-English medium students, they are able to benefit out of it. And it also promotes extensive use of technology so that it becomes a more inclusive approach. There is online blended forms of learning, and particularly the Divyangs can be benefited if there is extensive use of technology. So the NCRF makes a provision for that kind of learning also. So if we look at this diagram, so this framework, learning we know is multidimensional. It shows the three most important dimensions of learning, for which one is the academic learning, there is skilling or vocational learning, and there is experiential learning. So the NCRF talks about basically that you can earn credits from all these three forms of learning, and it provides a framework for integrating these credits for future mobility and moving on from one stream to the other. Then there is also a provision for NCRF, assigning NCRF levels. And those levels are based on the cumulative learning hours that a learner undergoes. So if we look at the academic axis, there are 8 levels. And from level 0 to 4 is for the school. From 4.5 to 8 is higher education. On the skill axis also, there are 8 levels from level 1 to 2, 1 to 8. Now, if we look at the academic axis, up to grade 5 is level 1, up to grade 8 is level 2. And after that, for every year of learning, the learner gets zero point 0.5 level. So that means if after class 8, that is level 2 is class 8, if a child moves to class 9, the level he gets is 2.5. If he moves on to class 10, then he gets level 3. So like that he progresses. Similarly for higher education, 4.5 will be UG1, 5, level 5 will be UG2, level 5.5 will be UG3, and if there is a honors course or a B course, which is 4 years, it will be level 6. So on it will continue till level 8, which is PhD. And in skill side, there is level 1 to 8, and this has also been completely synchronized with the credit framework. So another important thing that has happened is that particularly after class 3, it has been agreed that the total learning hours that will be used for creditization, that the total learning hours will be 1200 in a year for assignment of credits across school education, higher education, vocational education, and even experiential learning. And the credits for this 1200 hours of learning in a year will be 40, and this will translate to about 30 hours per credit. Now the breakup of these 30 hours per credit in terms of theory, practical or experiential learning will be as decided by the respective regulators or the autonomous institutions. But the basic principle will remain the same, that it will be 30 hours per credit. And if a student wants to get some additional credits, so that possibility is also there. The student can undertake an additional course, maybe an online course, or if the student wants that they undertake some kind of apprenticeship or internship in the summer holidays, they can do that, earn credits, and add on to these 40 credits. So basically, what all kinds of learnings are included for the purpose of credit? So earlier there was a distinction between curricular, extracurricular, co-curricular. There's so many adjectives we use. Now that distinction has gone. Everything is curricular. So all kind of learnings will get prioritized. So it could be classroom teaching, laboratory work, tutorials, technical education, vocational education, field visits, industry attachments, online blended learning, internship, experiential learning, apprenticeship, on-the-job training, examination, quizzes, anything that is part of any institution, any learning, it is there. So sports and games, any performing arts, music, dance, etc., and even any work done for the society, for the community, that gets creditized. But an important part for getting creditized is that it should end up in an assessment. You should be able to assess it, and only then you will get credits. But all forms of learning are covered. Then as we just, we saw that even experiential learning is getting credits. Now, how does that translate into credits? So we have, the framework provides that for, like earlier what happened, that for instance, there is a worker, there's a mechanic in a garage who's, who was repairing, say, two-wheelers. Now, suppose after 5 years, 4 or 5 years, he starts working on a car or even more, then the electric vehicles that have come. So that way, his proficiency level has gone up. So earlier, there was no recognition for that. But the credit framework will provide for giving credits for the level of proficiency achieved by a learner, a person. That can be creditized. So it can be like we have the framework defines that there can be somebody who is trained, somebody who is proficient, somebody who is an expert, and later on becomes a master. So certain weightage will be given to calculate the credit points for somebody who has undergone an experiential learning. And that could be like some indicative on the level of knowledge, that will have to be decided by the autonomous institution or the regulator. But the basic principle will remain the same, that the number of credits that a learner can earn as part of this experiential learning can be doubled, that is twice the number of credits he started with as the base level when he went in for experiential learning. So the basic principle will remain the same, but how it will be done, how the proficiency will be determined, what kind of weights will be given, that can be decided by the regulator or the institution. Then apart from this kind of learning, there is also provision in the framework for giving credits for informal learning or for non-formal learning. For instance, like for instance, in construction sites, there are schools that are operating. So non-formal kind of teaching they are doing. So all that can also be creditized, subject to their assessment. Then not only that, any kind of upskilling, reskilling, or any skilling in terms of traditional heritage skills, future skills, everything can be creditized. For instance, in an industry, suppose they want to do training for their own staff. They don't want to take up any particular course for training. They want only specific, they have a specific requirement. So a provision has been made to develop a module, which we call a national occupational standard, which can be from say 30 hours, maybe up to 120 hours, and then they can give training in that, do an assessment, and give credits. And suppose they want for that higher level personnel, like a CEO or something, and they want just 1 day of training, which could be from 7.5 hours to say up to 30 hours. That can also be done. There is a provision for micro credentials. So that can also be done, that after assessment of that, they can get credits. Then there are a number of, these are all special provisions. So for instance, there are number of gifted learners. So how educational acceleration can be done for gifted learners? Like we hear about many children, they are maths wizards at a very early age. So do they need to go through this entire 1200 hours of learning to get credits? So to provide for educational acceleration for such children also, there is a provision in the NCR that perhaps they don't have to go through this formal learning process. What the focus will be on assessing the outcomes, the learning outcomes, and based on that, credits can be given. Then recognition of prior learning is also a very important part. There are a lot of children, lot of people who drop out of school or college and they have gone for work. If they want to come back to educational stream, then by giving them appropriate level based on their practical experience and assessment, they can be brought back into the mainstream. So that is also provided. But for all this kind of creditization, one is assessment, and secondly, very, very strict and credible kind of assessments, so that the credibility of the NCRF framework remains intact, is not diluted. That is a very important feature. So in a nutshell, NCRF enables all kind of learnings to be creditized. And there is no differentiation in the way the credits are earned. It's not like somebody's done a science course and somebody's done humanities, the credits will be different. No, they will be the same. And when you get credits, that can make a child eligible for going into maybe a higher level course. But eligibility is different from admission. So you can be eligible for a course, but for the admission, the institution can lay down some other criteria, admission criteria, like an entrance test, or maybe they draw up a merit list. So there will be a difference between admission and eligibility. The credits earned will make you eligible, but the admission criteria will be that of the institution in which the admission is sought. And the second important aspect is that for creditization to happen, it is important that you prescribe the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes have to be very clearly defined. The NCRF level has also to be clearly defined so that you know that what is it that you're going to assess. As an example, suppose there is somebody who's earned some medal, say a silver medal in Olympics. Now, if you want to give credits for that, then the institution or the regulator can decide that, okay, we will give 20 credits to this person who has earned with this international meritorious people. They can get 20 credits for the skilling part in the sports sector. And after attaining 20 credits from the academic side, perhaps at level 5 we are talking about, then after attaining 20 credits from the academic side, he can be given a diploma. So that kind of provision is enabled in the NCR. Then at the end of it, assessment has to be done so that to see that the outcomes, learning outcomes that were defined are achieved or not, and only after that the credits will be assigned. So an important part for getting credits is that an assessment is essential. The second thing is about, we talk about assessment bands. Now, what is meant by assessment band? Assessment band is a stage at which a student or a learner needs to be formally assessed for moving on to or for progressing into a higher level. As an example, suppose after passing class 10, now somebody has done skilling courses or experiential learning and wants to take admission, he has enough credits and he wants to take admission, say, in a UG course. So that will not be possible. The credits that they have earned will make him eligible to undertake the assessment for class 12. He has to undergo the assessment for class 12 to get into a UG program. So that is what is meant by assessment bands. Then accumulation of credits is possible only within the same assessment bands. Suppose you have collected your credits in class 9 and 10. That those credits can be used for becoming eligible for class 11. They cannot be used for entry into, say, a UG program. So that is also an important part of this. Another thing that learning, it does not make a differentiation in the mode of learning. So you can get credits for physical learning, for online learning, or even for blended learning, depends subject to the guidelines of the institution. So, like for instance, this blended learning guidelines, which have been prepared by the NCVT for the vocational domain. So, if you see that the learning has been divided into 7 components. It includes theory, soft skills, demonstrations, practical work, tutorials, assessment, and on-the-job or internships. Now, each of this component, they can define what is going to be the ratio of offline learning and online learning. For instance, for theory in some programs or even for IT related, it could be that 80% can be delivered in an online mode. And maybe the practical part of it has to be, a higher percentage has to be in physical mode. So it is for the institution can define that for each component, what will be the ratio of online and offline learning. So National Credit Framework is one single meta framework which encompasses all qualification frameworks, that is, whether it is a national higher education qualification framework or it is a national skill qualification framework. So this is the table which shows how it is a meta framework. Everything has been put on one platform. There is academic learning, there is vocational learning, then the credits that can be assigned, the levels that can be assigned. To take just one example, if I look at class 10, for instance, so to go to class 10, 1200 hours of learning at class 10 level can be through the academic stream, or the child can come from after doing 8 plus 2 years of ITI, or 8 plus 2 years of apprenticeship training, or NSQF level short-term courses at level 3 with 1200 hours of learning, and they will be all at level 3 in the NCRF level, and they will earn 40 credits for 1200 hours of learning, leading to 120 credit points. Now, how does 120 come? This is 40 credits in a year into the level at which they are, which is level 3. So it becomes 120 credits. And the assessment for equivalence to class 10 can be through CBSE, could be through school boards, could be through the National Open School. So this is why we say that it is a meta framework. So ultimately, it is one framework and it is an enabling framework. That is, it enables the autonomous institutions, the regulators, everybody to define what is going to be their program, it gives them the flexibility to prepare their own programs according to their requirement. It lays down the basic principle for creditization of all learnings, but how it will be operationalized, the implementation plans that will come from the institutions and the regulators. So that is why we say that it is an enabling provision. So everything is enabled. Ultimately, it can be defined by the institutions themselves. So this was the part of how credits will be earned. All that is very much detailed out in the document. The second aspect is transfer and redemption of these credits. Now, transfer and redemption of these credits, as I mentioned, that there is going to be an academic bank of credits. And when a child starts his learning journey, then the bank, the academic, the account, his account in the academic bank of credits gets operationalized, and it continues till the end of his life. So any kind of learning that he or she undertakes, the credits go into this academic bank of credits. Now, what is transfer of credits? That is, the credits earned in one institution can be transferred, and they are recognized and transferred. They can be transferred to another institution through this academic bank of credits. And as I have said, that this transfer, like there is a difference between eligibility and admission. So the credits earned will make a person eligible, but not necessarily can get admission, because then they have to clear the admission criteria of that particular institution. And how the redemption will happen? The redemption will happen based on the guidelines of the regulator or the institution, but broadly it can happen in two ways. One, you can accumulate your credits, and at the end of it, you can take a certificate, a diploma, or a degree, subject to the guidelines of the institution. Or you can use your credits for admission into a higher level program or qualification. So if you see that transfer of credits can lead to establishing the entry criteria, the equivalence, and the multiple entry and exit options. So if there are two institutes, Institute 1 and 2, and a child has done then the next important aspect is equivalence. How equivalence is going to be established between general and vocational education. So as an example, so this transfer, this creditization, transfer, all this will facilitate equivalence. And for instance, suppose there is a learner, there's somebody who's doing a Bachelor of Engineering program, has cleared the first year of UG, now wants to switch over to humanities. So that should be possible because the equivalence is there. Then secondly, for instance, an ITI student, this is already happening, that in an ITI, a student who's done class 10 and undergoes 2 years of ITI. Over this 2 years of learning in an ITI. So that along with a 240-hour language course will enable him or her to get a 12th class certificate along with a skilling certificate. So that kind of academic equivalence is possible. Similarly, for short-term courses, there are people who do not have any educational certification. So they may not have studied. They have done a number of skill courses or they've worked. So suppose how do we enable them to get, say, a class 5 or a class 8 certificate? So there are provisions for that also in the credit framework, that you have earned certain credits and perhaps they can undergo a basic numeracy and literacy module or a language module. So that all will have to be worked out in consultation with the National Open School. So but the enabling provisions are there in the framework. So this is another example of equivalence, that suppose class 12th equivalent, suppose we are looking at, you can come out of regular school or through open school, or a 10th class pass student can do, as I explained, 2 years ITI plus a 240 hours language course, or a 10th pass student who's undergoing a diploma course of 3 years. If he has completed 2 years of education there, can get an equivalent certificate to class 12. Similarly, 10th grade pass plus short-term qualification courses at level 3.5 and 4, plus a language course, and all this with assessment can get a 12th class certificate. Similarly, for eligibility for admission to second year of UG, this kind of options are available. You can come after doing first year of UG, or you can come after 10th class plus 3 years diploma. Then you can, maybe there is an entry module, then you can get eligible for second year admission. Or after class 12, the child has done taking some credits from the UGC program, some credits at level 4.5 from short-term and long-term skilling program, or after 12th class, somebody has taken, say, 40 credits from some AICT or UGC programs at level 4.5. So many options are available to reach at the same point through by establishing equivalence. So this multiple entry and multiple exit options are available under the National Credit Framework, basically between academic education, mobility between academic education and vocational education and vice versa. And also if somebody leaves either academic or vocational education and goes to the job market, then they can also come back. That is the purpose of this multiple entry and exit program. Some examples of multiple entry and exit, as you are all aware that an undergraduate program is of 3 years minimum and an honors program could be 4 years. So a learner can exit the UG program after say year 1 and get a certificate. If he exits after year 2, he can exit with a diploma, and after 3 years, exit with a degree. And after 4 years, exit with an honors degree, or if it is an engineering program. And if somebody leaves the program, say after 1 year or 2 years, without completing the degree course, then the regulator or the institution can actually opt for an exit module to enable the learner to sort of earn before they can get a credit, they can get a certificate or a diploma, so that in order to make them more employable. Because if they leave after first year and they're going to the job market, so to prepare them for that, they can define an exit module. Now that exit module could be employability skills module or some project work that can be defined by the institution. So the idea is that when they leave the educational or the vocational stream and enter the job market, then they are sufficiently empowered. Similarly, examples are there for the master's program. You can be doing an integrated 5-year bachelor's and master's program. You can exit after 3 years and get a degree, and maybe you can do the rest of the 2 years from another institution. So you can change your institution if you so desire. So in brief, the National Credit Framework operationalizes the vision of the National Education Policy 2020. It integrates academic, vocational, and experiential learning. And in brief, it enables assignment, accumulation, storage, transfer, and redemption of credits. It allows for multidisciplinary and holistic education. It enables multiple entry and exit, removes any kind of distinction between general and vocational education. And it provides a framework of integration of the credits that can be earned from any form of learning. And this credit framework is going to benefit not only the students, but also the institutions, the industry, the job market, and the government in sort of fulfilling its national vision. And one of the important ones would be increasing enrollment of students. With that, I end this presentation, and later on we can take some questions. Thank you so much.
I would also request all the participants to kindly note down this email ID, which is forms.ncr, so that all the detailed questions and observations or any inputs, may kindly be sent to this email ID. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, for the elaborate, exhaustive, and very incisive presentation of the National Credit Framework. May I now request Professor K. Krishna, Dean of Academic Affairs, IIT Guwahati, to address the gathering as part of the experience sharing of the post IIT. Professor Krishna, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And on my behalf, Director has welcome. On my personal behalf, I welcome all of you to this important workshop because this is very important, particularly bringing implementation of NEP 2020, the National Credit Framework document, which actually give the realization on how to implement various aspects of NEP 2020. Of course, Dr. Vinita Agarwal, he has made an elaborate presentation on the draft document. So now what I will do, I will basically sort of give you an example this kind of framework, which in some form is implemented at IITs. Of course, many other organizations as well. So maybe this is my presentation would be something like whatever the notions which are essentially given here could be seen through this as an example. Obviously, because there are many other important parameters which have been emphasized in this document. I am going to tell you what exactly is happening, but of course, considering those documents, a lot of fine tuning in the due course of time would be perhaps take place. So let me just tell what is the credit system that IIT Guwahati going on. And it's not only at IIT Guwahati, it is all IITs are having some credit system. And there's slight variations from one institute to another institute. In my presentation, I will sort of introduce the credit system at IIT. So how essentially the system of education is happening at IIT Guwahati. And what kind of flexibilities that we have in our education system, which is sort of part and parcel of the backbone, or you could see the NEP 2020, which emphasizes this actually. And also we'll talk about credit equivalence. This is also one of the important points which are highlighted in the credit framework document. And this so-called flexibility and also going to one program to another program. By doing one program or taking another program, so what are the possibilities and such opportunities what are available at IIT Guwahati will also be sort of addressed in my presentation. So IIT Guwahati follows a semester system. We have 2 semesters. We call monsoon semester and winter semester. Monsoon semester from July to November and winter semester from January to May. Each semester we have 70 instruction days, 14 weeks basically. And if a particular week a holiday is there, we actually count actually 70 days and ensure that all of them are given, because this is particularly from the learning point of view, it's not just counting the weeks but the working days, instruction days. I am also making here winter break, summer break, because for learning these are also important. It's the instruction I am talking about monsoon semester and winter semester, but these breaks are also very important. I will highlight that. So, and then the credits which are, to start with, I'll talk about course, then how a semester credits would be, and in general for a particular program, how the credits are assigned. So I'll go from the bottom to top. So to start with, for a course, actually we have something called a credit structure, which is normally represented with LTP and the C, the credits component, which is at the end mentioned. So what L stands is basically the number of lecture hours per week. Okay, and the T, that is for tutorial. Similarly, like number of tutorial hours per week, which is written with the T. That is the second component in the structure. And the C, P, this is practical hours. And then the credits will be calculated based on this number of hours that the student actually spends for learning. So here in IIT Guwahati, these credits are calculated, 2 times the number of lecture hours and 2 times number of tutorial hours, and then 1 time the practical hours. So this is how the C is calculated. The credits are calculated. For example, if a credit structure is 300 at IIT Guwahati, the student actually, the course which is assigned with the 6 credits. But of course, I have to make a point here. Different IITs have different systems. At international level also, there are certain variations. I highlight this here because I think this document also, which is basically considering this kind of credit structure format, that is L plus T plus P by 2. Basically, you see, if you have 3 lectures, 1 tutorial, that is basically counted as 4 credits, but at IIT Guwahati it's 8 credits. So you can basically see the comparison when you draw. It is double the credits that we are assigning here. Perhaps you see when we are talking about these practical hours, which are counted to be 1, an integer, but it will be coming as some sort of fraction when you put it into the system. But anyways, there are clear equivalences. You can simply take it half for the sort of the main document what we are discussing today. Okay, so but we are following this. Some other ideas also. Here, one contact hours for a particular course. Actually, for students, it's outside the class hours, at least 2 hours of preparation. So here, through this course credits, as I said, I talk about course credits, then we talk about the semester and the programs. Here, what I wanted to highlight to you is, irrespective of the discipline, the number of learning hours that determines the credits. So whether it is humanities, whether it is mathematics, whether it is some civil engineering, that doesn't matter. So it is the number of contact hours which are essentially sort of unifying the credits and which is essentially giving a degree or a diploma. So that is what essentially you might, some of you, because you might have experience like particular discipline. Even my personal experience when I was studying in the university, for mathematics, the courses have to be 1.5 hours and about 4.5 hours of teaching used to happen. But whereas for maybe for computer science or so they used to give 3 lectures a week. So, but earning a degree, let's say for example MSc, the type of courses which are taught, so they used to be, because they have different level or the so-called different number of hours, contact hours, which are designed depending on the disciplines. But at IIT Guwahati, I wanted to make this point that with respect to the discipline, the credits which are to be earned, which are based on the number of contact hours and based on the number of hours that the student spending for learning. So that is the point which I would like to highlight for the course credits. And then for semester, normally about 30 to 48 credits, I am presenting to you in terms of the credits what we are following, the credit system what we are following. You can roughly take it as half. You can compare with the document what Madam has just presented. Okay, so what we do in a semester, about 32 hours, that's the maximum limit that we would suggest to have the contact hours in the classroom or in the laboratory. So about 4 to 5 courses, if you count in terms of some university system, you just call it as number of courses. So then it is about 4 to 5 courses. Or some project, then maybe if it is 1 is there, then the entire semester has gone depending on the number of contact hours. Okay. And it is about our limit basically, as per our ordinance, is about 30 to 48 credits a semester that student will be allowed to register in a semester. I'm just giving two examples here. This is undergraduate curriculum. If you look at this particular the top right, this is second semester undergraduate curriculum. You see that there are courses from different disciplines. So these are taken by the students. You can see this is BT, this stands. This is from Bioscience and Bioengineering department. The course is offered, which is Introduction to Biology. Similarly, if you look at the EE 102, this is basic electronics laboratory course, and for which the credit structure, if you see that 003, basically 3 hours of practical will be conducted, 2 or 3 credits against this course. And if you look at that BT 101, that is 300, and the number of credits that student will be earning is 6 credits by this course. And you can see different courses. So for a second semester undergraduate, so they are prescribed these courses. And this is the maximum that a student, and I also talk about that flexibility. And one important thing I would like to highlight here, which that is SA1 XX, which is mentioned, that XX here indicates that there are options actually. So one particular course, maybe that is 101 or it may be 102 or 110 different student affairs essay, student affairs courses, student activity courses, which having credit structure here 002. But as per our formula, it should be 2 here. It should be 2 here, but we write 0, which has a meaning, which says that it is a non-credit course. But of course, now as we sort of get into this national credit framework, tomorrow perhaps there would be some revision to these things and making sort of credits to such courses as well. But currently, these are sort of a non-credit course, so which will be indicated with credits 0, so that we could see here in this. Similarly, I have pulled out semester 8 from, for example, this is from Mathematics and Computing Grading Program. You can see that we have, as I had already mentioned, that if I write this 4XS, that means the 4-level course could be elective, could be anything, that is maybe 421 or 425, what are the courses which are available. So which is relevant to the discipline. And if you see here OE, this is open elective, that is the student can take across the board, from any discipline, any department, certain electives would be offered, so the student can take so-called open elective. And there are project courses. You can see that we are, I am also trying to highlight that this practical here, when we are putting basically the number of hours, the contact hours, and the hours that the student is expected to spend on the project in a week, which is sort of indicated here. This is, it would lead to a thesis basically. And we have some courses for HS electives, so humanities and social sciences. So these electives, different levels we have. So basically for undergraduate programs, there are 2 levels, and across the 4 years or the 8 semesters that the students will be taking. So these are also indicated here. So thus, you can see that about 34 credits that which are assigned for this 8th semester undergraduate program in Maths and Computing. So I have just taken this as an example to show you the credit structure for each course and in the semester, how actually we are prescribing a particular student. Okay, so broadly, let me put it, how the courses are essentially put in different baskets. That we have institutional level core courses. Institute level core courses basically, you may be basic engineering courses, basic science courses, basic mathematics courses, that all the students, they will be taking this kind of basic courses to get into the mainstream of their discipline. These are sort of prerequisites. Unless they have this understanding, this basic level courses, they will not be able to do higher level courses. And then we have sort of department core courses. These are for the respective disciplines that they will be taking to earn a degree in that particular discipline. So these are the core courses. And also, in a particular discipline, there can be certain specializations. And depending on the student interest, the student can take these elective courses. We have baskets of elective courses, I have shown you the sample. So the students would choose this kind of courses from these baskets. And then he can actually specialize himself, even in a broad discipline of civil engineering. Maybe someone who is interested in structural engineering would be sort of taking electives from the discipline, or maybe water resources, or mathematics. Someone who is interested to learn only algebra, or someone wanted to do some differential equations. So he would be choosing courses from that. So, but this is discipline specific, but the specializations also you would emphasize through these elective aspects. And as I had mentioned, like you have institute level elective courses. They are something maybe from the humanities or open electives. I mean, as I had mentioned, that it could be across the disciplines. A mathematics student can do some courses from civil engineering department, or chemistry, or computer science, or physics. So the courses which are offered across could be chosen by the students to take this kind of institute elective courses. So they can take anything. There are provisions available, and we actually schedule very carefully so that student will not have any problem in choosing those courses and taking this in a given semester. Of course, we have almost all the programs have these project courses are for writing thesis. For some it may be optional, but majority of the programs, undergraduate programs, of course, postgraduate programs, like at the level of MSc or MA, of course, for MTech, it is a compulsory thesis. So we have this kind of programs for which the credit structure, as you have seen, it will be looking like 00, some number. So that will amount to some credits while doing some work on it, and they'll be working in the laboratory, and they may be sitting in the library and keep on looking at lot of literature and doing some work out of it. So then various ways of doing, going to some industry and working there and producing something, and then come back and submit. So this learning, particularly this project courses that I have just highlighted, this could be in any form as prescribed by the supervisor associated to the student. And he need not be in the campus, he can be anywhere. So some students go for internship, and then they do some work there, and they sort of submit a thesis out of it. So that should also be earned through this. And as I had mentioned that these breaks are important. Here that play actually a vital role. Many of the students, what do? Even in the winter break, that is about 4 weeks during December. Even they go to industry or some research laboratories, they go and do some experiments, or they collect some sample or some data. They come back and sit in the semester. During the semester, they do the analysis and they produce the thesis. And if it is a summer break, they get about 12 weeks minimum. Almost like May 2nd week or then first week onwards up to July. Significant students even travel abroad. They join research laboratories there, or the universities. They do a lot of work there, and they come back and they compile everything. They produce the thesis out of it, the project they submit, and they earn credits out of it. So therefore, these breaks are also very important. But after this NLP 2020 implementation, the institute is also now creating a lot of provisions, and we are trying to create a lot of flexibilities, to give a lot of options to the students. It's something like, we have already some provisions, particularly those who are doing for thesis work, they can go and do. But now what is important, someone may be doing some discipline, and for which the scope in the sort of industry or whatever may be less, or the job opportunities. The students are, you might see, even your kids, you might be understanding, okay, he is choosing something and he wanted to do something else also. So that's what essentially this flexibility which we are talking about. We are creating provisions for that. He might be doing, BTech in a particular engineering, and he wanted to go for IT job. This is a typical phenomena that you would see. And you ask any kid, he'll say that, I'll take CSE, BTech first. That's my first preference. I did not get it, so I am going to somewhere else. So we are trying to give provisions, like whatever that they wanted to learn, they can learn here. So they can actually, so recently we have also enabled to give almost a full semester break, academic leave, so that they can go to industry or what of their interest. It may be aligned discipline, or it may be, it might not be. So he can go for full semester and spend time there, and then learn, and those learning can be sort of like, considered. And we are, at this moment, we are we are enabling and we are giving the provisions, and we sort of like, considering this particular document, maybe tomorrow we will also think of like, how to give them the credits if it is not in the discipline. Because today, the framework, what we are following is BTech in civil engineering, if you have to get this many credits in this core discipline and so on and so forth. But now, since this national framework is coming up, perhaps, someone, as I had mentioned, that the student activity course, which is showing 0 credit, which is non-credit course. Maybe if we are giving credits to that, then the number of credits that we are going to fit, perhaps, whatever the learning, it may be learning of the discipline, or, we have already provisions for across the disciplines, and so-called extracurricular and co-curricular activities, which we are not showing at this moment, and we are not practicing at this moment. Perhaps we'll be looking at those things in due course of time. So this kind of essay courses also we have. So these are the types of courses, and also let me put it, because as you see in the document, NCRF document, there are levels which are talked about, but of course, I'm not saying that these levels are exactly that, because this is what exactly we are following. Now we have to fine tune to see that, how to essentially align to, and we are going for this national credit framework. But at this moment, we actually consider the levels in this manner for the courses, and we also number those courses appropriately, so that student will understand that he is taking level 3 course, where perhaps he has to have certain prerequisites which are at level 1 or 2. He has to finish perhaps, which are assigned in undergraduate first year, undergraduate second year, he has to do. So, by looking at this level, the student will realize, oh, this course, if I have to take, I should have some background for that. So, some sort of leveling system is also followed at IITs. And it's by and large, for undergraduates up to 4 years, we give 1, 2, 3, 4 levels as per the years. And if you go to postgraduate, MA, MSc, or even MTech, you can see some MSc courses are generally given 4 level, because they come sort of in between. They are not exactly equivalent to MTech, right? There's a master's program. So we give 4 level and also 5 level. And for MTech, generally it is from 5 level we give the courses. And if we go for the elective courses, that could be 6 level. And PhD courses are generally given at 7 level. So this is how essentially these courses, the credit structure and the levels of the courses and the type of flexibilities and the various baskets of courses which are which are in place in IIT system. Okay, now let me also give you a brief about how what is the number of credits that one student has to earn to get a degree. Okay, so that this is what essentially I am presenting here. That if you look at this BTech or BTech program, these are the 2 undergraduate programs that IIT Guwahati has. In BTech, we have various disciplines, about 12 disciplines that we are having to award BTech, starting from computer science, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, data science and artificial intelligence. Recently, we have introduced, particularly emphasizing this MEP 2020 that has been introduced in that year. And various interdisciplinary programs are also on the way. So we are actually starting, even last year, not last year, this year, 2020, we have started energy engineering in the discipline energy engineering undergraduate program, BTech. And we have Bachelor of Design. So to earn a Bachelor of Design or Bachelor of Technology, of course, there is an entry path. Having that, a student has to earn about 290 to 310 credits in this range. The program is designed and given to them. And this is in the range of 290 to 310 credits. And in each semester, as I had mentioned earlier, about 30 to 40 credits, which student will be learning. And a minimum of 8 semesters, the program will run. It's a 4-year program per se. But someone who is not really capable of taking certain courses, he can put himself in slow pace. Maybe rather than taking all the 40 credits which are prescribed, maybe you would be registering to 4 courses. Because unable to make it, no problem, you take it, and we permit up to 12 semesters. And if some unfortunate student, he wanted to even take lesser. So sometimes very exceptionally, we permit. We normally prescribe minimum 30 credits that a student should register to in each semester. But if it is a requirement, then we also allow them to take lesser load and do it slowly. So such provisions are there. And in the undergraduate program, the student is written credits are roughly, here I am giving you the table that basic sciences about 10% of the credits are assigned, basic engineering about 12% of the credits are assigned, and basic mathematics courses which are about 8% of the courses, which amounts to about 30% credits are to the very basic courses, which are across the disciplines. That you have seen some biosciences, it may be from basic drawing, it may be mechanics course, and so on and so forth. So this is how we have classified about 30% of the courses. All the students will be taking any BTech student. And similarly, you can see here in humanities and social sciences, from which we have about 7.5% credits are sort of assigned. So students can, irrespective of the discipline, whether he is a computer science engineering student or whether he is a civil engineering student, doesn't matter. They will all be taking all these courses. So this, and also as per his wish, whatever that he would like to choose, it's about 7.5% open electives are also sort of suggested. Accordingly, you can see about 45% of it is going to outside the discipline, so to say, or to learn the general understanding of that particular undergraduate program. As far as the discipline concerned, it is the core is 35% only, and then if you wanted to specialize himself to a particular stream, again he can choose, and as per his wish, her wish, that 20% of the credits that can be earned through that. So this total about 55% of the discipline courses, and it is, and this varies. This I have picked up a particular program and I have shown, but this is roughly about 50-50 or 55-45. It is in the ranges of it from discipline to discipline. Perhaps I have picked up a particular program and then looked at it, because the departments they decide, like through giving the broad framework by the institute. Look, this kind of humanities courses should be there. This kind of slots for open electives should be there. But for one program, there may be 3 open electives slots. For another program, it may be 4, or it may be 2. So it may vary, but this is giving you the broad idea that how an undergraduate student is earning credits across various baskets of courses. As I have mentioned once again here, there are about 6 non-credit courses which we prescribe, which are student activity courses. And we have also, after NEP 2020, when we start implementing sustainable development goals, that course also we have introduced. And every undergraduate student would be taking it, and that is also at this moment a non-credit course. So this gives a lot of general learning and understanding. Okay, so similarly, if you see this MA, MSc, MBA programs, which they have to earn between 155 to 175 credits in 4 semesters, and we allow up to 6 semesters for them to do this. And because they are at master's level, of course, discipline-specific courses would be more, but there also specializations they will have flexibility. And MTech, MDes, and MS by research. These programs, of course, 1 year they have spent on the thesis for all the 3 programs, at least 1 year, let me put it that way. So, of course, they are 2-year programs, having the flexibility to go up to 4 years, depending on the type of work they are doing, or depending on the, but these are 2-year programs, and they have to earn about 96 credits, out of which, 48 to 60 credits they would be earning through thesis. So, these are basically, you can say, first level research programs. And the thesis is compulsory for them, and they will be working. And for these master students, we allow even up to 1 year to go to industry. Once they come back, submit the work to the institute, so that they can earn those credits. So those students are also available, and those who are getting even fellowship, they will be going to industry or some other organizations. They will be given academic leave. They work there. They will be in continuous touch with the supervisor who is assigned here. They will be sort of like working in sync and they'll come back and submit. They'll be permitted for almost an year for this. I also here indicated we have mandatory coursework for PhD students. About 2 semesters they spend again doing higher level courses, and they prepare the background for their for the areas in which they are intended to work. And also there are certain courses in a particular discipline. If they are in mathematics department, if someone you expect that they should be having some basic mathematics courses covered, because when the people coming from PhD, they'll come from across the board. Like someone who is who is having BTech degree in computer science can also take admission in mathematics department to do PhD, and vice versa, and vice versa. So we have such flexibilities. So to create the background, we have some mandatory coursework. About 2 semesters, they would be expected to, take credits between 24 to 36 credits, depending on their background. So this is how the credits for programs which are assigned, and students have to earn these credits to get the respective degrees. For PhD, of course, thesis is the main thing. So which is that PhD thesis we do not have at this moment any sort of credits assigned, because they have to really produce something. So, which is not really counted in terms of credits for that. But for all others, even first level research courses like MTech, MSR, we have assigned credits for the thesis, but not for PhD at this moment. And of course, as Dr. Vinita Agarwal, she was highlighting, for anything, you go here and there and do whatever, but the credits when you are earning, which has to be sort of like quantified in terms of the number of learning hours, followed by assessment. That is an important thing. And in our system, we have continuous assessment system. The continuous assessment is, instructor goes to the class and they interact with the students, and then sort of decide what should be the grade for the student. Every day he would assess, and the instructor has freedom to decide how many times that he wanted to sort of like schedule, and how many assignments or how many tests that he would like to conduct, in what form, that it is just instructor based. So we suggest from the institute that students have to take 2 mandatory examinations, that mid semester and end semester. The examination is mandatory for the instructor to conduct. Student can skip one of the exam, doesn't matter. Because if he skips the midterm, it may be a small portion of marks which he would not be getting. For some arbitrary, if his health is not good, no problem. That fine, he has all other assessments. Maybe if it is less than 20%, no problem. Another 80% he would be earning, and the instructor will assess to decide like what should be the grade that should be given for a student. So these are the various forms of assessments happening. May not be an exhaustive list, because whatever that not by and large you see lessons, like some basic courses, they have a lot of material. So you have, so this oral examination has really helped to assess the genuinity of how much the student has learned. So such provisions are also there. So various types of assessments through which certain grades are assigned and through which the students are earning those credits. I'll also highlight the so-called flexibilities that we have. I had already mentioned roughly, but let me make it more clear to you. As far as the undergraduate programs, we have change of branch is possible. Someone who is interested in a particular branch, he has got very good rank. He has taken BTech maybe maths and computing or computer science, and he has realized that he's not doing well. Somehow it's not his interest. He wanted to. So after first year, we will ask him to give the choices, and he can make the change of branches. But of course, there is a demand and supply. Like we have to have some checks and balances. We cannot just push all, because if you ask them to go, all of them will go and sit in computer science testing. Of course, we have examples. We have BTech computer science students going to civil engineering. So we also have such examples. In fact, earlier we used to say, no, unless you have some 8 CPA, we are not going to allow you. But what we realized, someone who is not really doing well in this particular thing. So therefore his grades are not, he's not earning good grades. So then we have relaxed that, like, you can move. Even if there is a chance, if there is because we normally allow about 10% of the students move and decide to that side. So, because you cannot actually make 100 strength class 200 all of a sudden, right? So the flexibility, that particular criteria we have relaxed so that students can go if they wanted to take some other, which is perhaps may not be much in demand there. Demand with respect to the fields. Okay. So that provision is there. After first year, the undergraduate students can opt for this. We have this minor program. What students will do, about 30 credits in a different discipline. That student would register and take a basket of 5 courses, and he will learn a minor program along with the main BTech, maybe BTech in CSE. He would like to do, for example, in electronics and communication engineering. So he could choose for that and take some extra courses in a semester, 5 courses means another maybe 5 semesters which are distributed. He would do and he will learn a minor degree in electronics and communication engineering. So not in the parent department, but in the other discipline. A student from mathematics can choose civil engineering or engineering physics. So this kind of different minors that we have, the student has to earn 30 credits and on this minor. And you see, these two are also from minors from humanities and social sciences, South and Southeast Asian studies, or language and literature. This kind of minor are also offered, so students can earn minor, not from the varied discipline, basically. And as I mentioned that this internship during summer break are given a 1 semester academic leave, which could be given to undergraduate students to earn credits outside the curriculum, or in the curriculum of the thesis work. Similarly, we have for postgraduates also. I have already mentioned that they will be getting about even only an academic leave to work outside and earn the credits. Now, let me also little bit talk about credit equivalence. We have student exchange programs. I mean, through certain MOUs, we have several MOUs with foreign universities. The students' mobility will be there. Students will come from there and then earn credits here. And when he is coming, there may be different systems. So we may be awarding the grades on 10 scale, and we talk about this is the credits. As I mentioned here, comparing with the other IIT, our credits will be double. If it's the National Credit Framework document also, 4 credits there, that means 4 hours contact. Here, you'll be earning 8 credits. So, we will first look at the equivalences, and then even the credit equivalence or the grade equivalence, and those equivalences will be sort of like, ascertained and then agreed upon, and the student will take the courses and carry those credits back, earning the degree there. And similarly, our students would go and then earn credits there, and we will count them in the part of this, what are the credits that they are supposed to earn. So we have with some Indian universities also, for example, NIT Agartala, the 5-year students would come here and study here. They take these credits and get BTech degree there. So we have such MOUs, and across the board we have several such MOUs, and the students' mobility and through these exchange programs, the transfer of credits are happening there. We also have joint degree programs. Just to highlight that we have one international joint degree program that is MTech in food science and technology in Jifu University, Japan. So this is the master's program. Other than this master's program, we have several joint degree programs for doctoral degrees, PhD. The PhD degree could be jointly given, or 2 degrees the student would get. That means certain countries have restrictions that they will not be able to give the same transcript, the same testimony, but the student will be getting 2 certificates, one PhD degree from IIT Guwahati, one maybe from Patel, or maybe, we are going to have at Deccan University. So, there the country will not permit you to write in the same testimony, 2 logos, 2 institutes names. So that's the government thing. So, the student will be getting 2 degrees, double degree. We have third degree. This is the first of this time between IITs. Between IIT Guwahati and IIT BHU, we have joined the doctoral program. In fact, between IITs also we have such students joining these programs will be taking degrees. These are joint degrees, and also we have introduced particularly from NEP to taking the clues from NEP 2020 and the implementation aspects. This MOOC course, this NPTEL MOOC, I am sure that everyone of you are aware of it. So these courses also now considered, to give some credits in the programs. You might know that when this NPTEL has started, engineering colleges in the country, we don't have really sort of equipped these things, and therefore IIT faculty are giving the lectures. IOC, many other where you have good faculty. They are recording the lectures and giving to the others. It's the government program free of cost. So now, once this so-called this MOOC when it has started, we started giving the tests also, and the students getting certificates. And many institutes might be even including because we wanted to show that look, this is what we are also doing. So we will also give that. Basically, though it was made for others, we are also in fact considering this, and this kind of similar things we are also considering for other certificate courses. Now, as I mentioned, that let me also talk about this change of program, that kind of flexibility. A BTech student in our institute, after 6 semesters, he can actually upgrade himself or directly register to, because after the 6 semesters, he can register to PhD program, and he will get then dual degree by the time he finishes his PhD. We also have that kind of upgradation from MTech to PhD also after 2 semesters. Basically, rather than doing the thesis work of this master's level, he would register for the doctoral thesis, and then he would be getting a PhD degree. So this kind of flexibility is also in our structure which are there. But considering this, I mean, many other features, what we are going to even further discuss today, perhaps a lot of changes would be taking place soon in the near future. So, but I just thought, we can give as an example of some basic framework how is that happening at IIT Guwahati through this presentation. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Krishna, for the
Very informative.
elaborate explanation on the credit system at IIT Guwahati. So we will now briefly break for tea. For that, I would like to request all the resource persons and the delegates present here to kindly come forward, go to the entrance of the conference center. We will have a group photo session, after which we all of us will have tea. We will then reconvene at 12:15. We will reconvene at 12:15. Thank you, everyone.
Maybe we can So this is it. Okay, then Santosh Kumar, let me be here. Okay. It will be too tight, no? Space will give.
ये भी संतोष कुमार का है
हाँ वो थोड़ा स्पेस दे देते हैं so that you know when they are fitting. कितने लोग हैं?
Sir, it is not possible, sir. 8,
No, no.
8, 9 including you.
8. No, I am not sitting here. I will be standing only.
You will moderate standing.
Yeah.
एक निकाल दो.
This is not needed.
ये मेरा वहाँ जहाँ मैं बैठा था वहीं रख दूँगा. You tell Director, NCVP,
Yeah, I'm from Indian Economic Service.
Mr. Santosh Kumar,
Insurance.
Chief Controller of Accounts, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, MSDA. Lieutenant Colonel Akhil Sharma, Assistant Director, AIP.
I'm from verified back.
Dr. N.
Very
Kumar, UGC.
So I joined.
Dr. T. N. Giri, Director of Vocational Education.
Then I was in the ministry.
And Dr. Biswajit Saha, Director,
When I moved to
Training and Skill Education, CBSE. I take it for also welcome
and then
our Deputy Director, Professor
executive member.
Indra K. Karati, this second session. This second session primarily about a panel discussion
Before this.
followed by a group discussion. This session will be moderated by
Sanjeev.
Professor K.
Yeah,
Krishna.
we are in-
May I request Professor Krishna?
You can just divide. Yeah. Just you can out.
Sanjeev 85 batch.
Okay.
not 85, 87. Sanjeev from
In
my
my
civil
period.
accounts.
Yeah, Sanjeev.
Welcome back.
Yes, he was not actually in
So-
the public service.
Okay.
As we had gone through the salient features of National Credit Framework presented by Dr. Guru Agarwal. And I had also briefed you about IIT Guwahati Credit Framework. How is that going on? So having this, and also I hope every one of you would have gone through the National Credit Framework document, which is publicly available. It's about 80-page document, and it was briefed. Now, this session is dedicated to consult you, to take feedback on this document, and what kind of implementation modalities are to be worked out. So, this is the delegation today with us to consult, take the feedback, and perhaps see like how best that it can be sort of taken it forward. So, having this as the theme, now the session I am starting. So, we may perhaps just start with this is a question answer session and the panel discussion. So now we can start the discussion. Come on. Okay, let me then perhaps start the question.
Yeah.
There is some question.
Yeah.
That as members, I just maybe I'll start and then perhaps.
Yeah.
So as you have seen in IIT credit structure and the non-credit courses, so we are having the student activity courses, which the students will be spending in a week 2 hours for about 2 hours a week. So as you have seen 002, 0 we are putting. So National Credit Framework document is recommending, okay, you give some credits to that. Okay. So what was envisaged when this kind of discussions took place in the document? So maybe I'll start with this question.
So
Yeah, panel may
Let me-
answer this and then
let me just answer this question. So it's like the National Credit Framework. It basically talks about creditizing all forms of learning. So removing this distinction between extracurricular or co-curricular. So that is the vision of the NEP from where it draws its strength. And therefore it says that even, bagless days in schools will need to get credits. So you can give some little small number of credits, but they need to be given credits so that it is an accumulation of the credits, the work that they are doing. And like right now, you're not giving any credits. So if you give credits, then that will add to the credits of the learner. Anyway, they are devoting their time and energy into that activity that you have defined. So that is the idea of the credit framework.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Madam Agarwal has rightly mentioned. In case of school, NEP gives a huge framework. Now, over time, whether school, college, university, are we going to change? It's a big question. In any consultative meeting, we agree with so many things, but after going to the campus, we try to follow yesterday. So these consultative meeting is actually the new life what National Credit Framework is try to address upon, as Madam has said, by taking the strength of new education policy. So whether it is school, college or university, many way, and in her presentation also she categorically mentioned that curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular, these things are routine happening in the campuses, in any educational institute. Now, how to recognize this and also linking with the report card. Many institute, many faculty member, in a forum we appreciate, but whenever we hand over the credit card or mark sheet, it reflects only and only the academic performance. And majority of the institute, whether it is school, college, university, including the premier institutes where we are sitting. Of course, in the nomenclature, Professor Saab has shown us many things. But in real sense, these are the things happening. So, just to draw a line, how we can really recognize the effort and also benchmarking, and for that, that process accumulations need to be there, and which we all institutes are supposed to, especially the regulator, whether it is school board and university, deemed university and autonomous institutes, premier institutes like IIT, IIM, who are already doing it. I think some way a convergence we can bring, and that will help the citizens to float around the education world or industrial world or so-called socially recognized elements there in that. Then only the whole concept of credit banking would be meaningfully deliverable and objectives would be fulfilled. Let me pause there.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like it also says that when you creditize something, then you have to define the learning outcomes. So right now, like if it is 0 credits, I don't know whether an assessment is really happening. So here you are then defining the learning outcomes, you are measuring the child's performance against the learning outcomes. So it gives it a little more credibility and recognition for his or her efforts. Yeah. Yes.
For example, from Madurai University, we are offering some student activity courses like NSS, NCC, like that. And if you don't give credit to these courses, and students are found to be
Missing.
disinterested.
Yes.
Disinterested in attending those courses. Therefore, we are giving 2 credits. I think it is okay.
Yes. And that's fine.
And second, actually, for a general degree for this, offering vocational courses is the toughest part in anything because we don't have the expertise as well as the human resources and the infrastructure facilities. In that course, in that case, what should we do? Will we be able to give full autonomy to the institute to design the course? And it is greatly appreciated that if the courses are offered in mother tongue. How can you manage that situation? Because it's a huge problem for we people. We don't have such faculty to offer vocational courses.
So definitely institutions' capacity will have to be built. And there is also a talk, like even at the central level, we are talking about convergence of efforts. So like you have say centers of excellence, you have ITIs, you have schools, so you have universities. So everybody needs to build their capacity. And then if you can converge your efforts, so that if you have infrastructure, say in one institute, you utilize, the other institute can also utilize it. And of course, if you can develop the infrastructure in your own institute, that is also something that the institute will have to do. As far as trained faculty, etc., is concerned, so that definitely the institute will have to build up their own state resources. There are a lot of resources, whatever is present right now. For instance, we have sector scale councils who are training the trainers for vocational courses. So you can take assistance from them also initially and then build your own capacity.
Also, there are in unorganized sectors, there are master trainers, there are people, ostads. You have to hone on. That's what we want to mainstream them in the ecosystem. जो भी ये कुशल और कौशल लोग हैं जो बहुत रखते हैं मान्यता अपनी सारी चीजों में, उनको हम मेन स्ट्रीम में लाने के लिए ये अहम कदम है. और आप जब देख रहे हैं ये सारे कंपोनेंट्स which you can see on the screen, all these components are envisioned that they should be creditized. आप जो रीजनल लैंग्वेज की बात कर रहे थे, तो हमारी गवर्नमेंट की भी यही सोच है कि जो पढ़ाई है वो रीजनल लैंग्वेज में ही होनी चाहिए, सबसे ज्यादा उसी में समझ में आए. जैसे मैं हिंदी बोल रहा हूं आपके सामने, तो ये रीजनल लैंग्वेज में ही होनी चाहिए जो आपको लैंग्वेज समझ में आए. अभी जैसे आईआईटी के एग्जामिनेशन हुए 13 भाषाओं में होते, पहले नहीं होते थे. ये सिविल सर्विसेज में भी ऐसे ही हैं. So we are propagating even this thing AICTE. They will vouch that they have converted these engineering courses in various languages. He would
I would like to add for your first question regarding जो आप पूछ रहे थे कि कौन सा कोर्स किया जाए. तो like आपने कर्मा स्कीम के बारे में AICTE का सुना होगा. I'm just giving an example. And this question arises from majority of the institutes. Suppose I am an institute, I want to offer AI or robotics or anything which is in demand to my students. So first thing they ask is that I don't have a trained faculty. So what we tell them is that there are two aspects. Either choose a course in which you have a trained faculty. That is one. If you want to choose a course in which you don't have a faculty, as ma'am said, there are sector skill councils. We have AICTE, we have organized almost 40-50 webinars with all AICTE approved institutes and with sector skill council. तो आप sector skill council को approach कीजिए, उनसे आप पूछिए कि मैं ये कोर्स कैसे रन कर सकता हूँ. जहाँ तक बात रही करिकुलम की, तो NQR की वेबसाइट है जहाँ पे आपको सारे कोर्सेज का जो भी IT डोमेन है या किसी भी डोमेन का आपको सारा करिकुलम वहाँ पर मिल जाएगा, which is NSQF aligned. एंड योर मदर टंग जहाँ तक बात है तो AICTE ने उसमें बहुत बड़ा काम किया है. अभी हम इंजीनियरिंग की बुक्स ऑलमोस्ट 12 लैंग्वेजेस में पब्लिश कर रहे हैं एंड विच इज इन बिग डिमांड. दिस इज अ वेरी बिग स्टेप टेकन बाय AICTE एंड विच विल कंटिन्यू टू हैपन. सो दिस थॉट प्रोसेस इज ऑलरेडी देयर एंड यू विल सी द रिजल्ट्स. द रिजल्ट्स आर ऑलरेडी देयर.
To add it on, what he said is NQR, to amplify, NQR is National Qualification Register. And it has got 5,600 approved qualification in various fields. I can say 52 sectors in the country which is recognized. You can pick and choose anything. They are all NSQF client. You can pick and choose. And they are aligned with the Sector Skill Council. You will find the instructors or trainers or whosoever you want to. They are available in the ecosystem.
Institutions which are not government.
Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
Yes.
Let me add one or 2 points, because most of the institutes, especially general degree college, he has rightly mentioned, both in the government sides or in case of the privately managed colleges, somewhere the faculties are related to humanities, science and commerce. Now, related subjects, if you identify, suppose insurance, banking, financial management, market management. So these are marketing, salesmanship. See, these are the area where you do not require any specific infrastructure. And some of your commerce faculty can easily offer short-term modular courses on specific zone. Right. Similarly, for humanities, suppose you have a history honors, try to collaborate with nearby tourism institute. I think that kind of coherence, if we can bring, and there are many professional institutes in the neighborhood, in every state, if not in every district. Hotel management institutes are there. So both private, public, institutional partnership can be there, and so that you don't have to go with the standalone infrastructure. Maybe after 2 months or maybe after 6 months, once the course finishes, that demand supply issues are also there. So maybe through RDSE or state skill development mission, the state's district specific demand, if we can map, and accordingly if we come up with the solution, and whatever our panelist has mentioned, whether it is Sector Skills Council or other bodies in the ecosystem, we can easily accommodate them. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Can I?
Yes.
I am from Sikkim University and member secretary of NEP committee of Sikkim University. We have started to implement. We have started this year implementing 4-year UG course, which wasn't there. So we have some confusions. I was told to share with you all, and especially with all the esteemed panel member here. The credits that we have given to different courses that is mentioned in the UG 4-year UG course, should it be similar with other institutions? Because what will be the problem if the student wants to exit from our university and wants to go to some other university? Will it be similar? This is one query. And in relation to vocational education, because we have affiliating colleges, we have 15 affiliating colleges in our university, they have vocational courses. And as per FYUG, vocational introduction to vocational should start from the first semester. Now the issue is, who assesses this vocational course? Is the skill council or the university assesses it? This is still a confusion. And one more question.
So let's first answer your two questions.
All right.
So the first question you said, similar credits.
Yes.
So that is what the National Credit Framework talks about, that there will be 1200 hours of learning. So that is across universities, colleges, schools, vocational skills. So 1200 of hours of learning leading to 40 credits in a year. So that uniformity has to be there to facilitate transfer of credits. So your institution also has to follow the same, 20 credits per semester.
Okay. Madam, just a query. In the first format, the draft guideline, it was 40 credit.
Yeah.
And in the NSQF, National Higher Education Qualification Framework, it was 44 credit, 40 to 44. So we made it still 42.
So now it, like I had presented, that it will be 40 credits for 1200 hours of learning. Over and above, if somebody wants to do an additional course, they can earn additional credits. It can even go up to 44 also.
You can see that slide also, ma'am.
Third point.
But then there are two guidelines.
So that was earlier. Mr. Gopu Kumar can highlight.
Finish, madam.
So it was earlier the NHE. Now the NHEQF is totally aligned to NCRF. So now it is the similar kind of provision. He can confirm that.
Madam, your question largely connected with the mobility from one institution to another. Both the documents, either the draft National Higher Education Qualification Framework or draft 4-year undergraduate program, both be placed in the public domain, underwent lot of changes. Now both are in line with National Credit Framework. It is 20 credits per semester and 40 per year. And for the mobility, if you see the National Education Policy 2020, it is mentioned very clearly to ensure mobility between institutions, between the pedagogy and between the curriculum. There needs to be to some extent, there should be some consistency within the broad framework of qualifications framework. That is what in higher education, National Higher Education Qualification Framework. How this consistency we are going to establish, it is based on the learning outcomes. So for every program and every course, there will be course learning outcomes, for program learning outcomes. This we have largely defined in the National Higher Education Framework. Like if you see the existing, what is available in the public domain, knowledge and understanding, and the application of knowledge, then generic discipline and employability. Like this, some 5 categories are given, and each of these are the learning outcomes broadly. And for every level, these learning outcomes will increase, the complexity will increase slowly for every level. So based on this, now discipline specific benchmarking we are doing currently, and once NHEQF it will come immediately after the National Credit Framework is published. Immediately Higher Education Qualification Framework will follow. After that, immediately the UGC will start bringing out the discipline specific things, and that will address your concerns. Thank you.
To add it further to whatever Dr. Gopu Kumar just mentioned, learning outcomes are very important, but to interaction or mutual mobility between the two university or any organization, there has to be some set format. We are enabling you. This provision was not there. Inter-university transfer or inter-organizational transfer, these things, provisions were not there at the national level. Now, these provisions have been enabled by this document, NCRF. Now, how you get into, and NIRF rating also comes into play. an NIRF rating of 100 cannot tell that the student studying in 100 straight away become eligible for 1. There has to be certain provision, there has to be some mapping required to be done. This provision has to be done by the regulators or these autonomous body.
And
It was the same question as second question.
same, she's talking about assessments. Now see, assessments for the skill program, I'm sure your university must be running skill programs earlier also. So like was being done for BWalk program also earlier. In many cases, the sector skill councils were helping in the assessment for the skill component. So that can be a mechanism for the time being, but ultimately, since you are a university, you should be able to build your own capacity for assessment. So like in NCVT, what we are looking at that your universities can actually seek recognition as an awarding body and as an assessment body, where you can, do your own assessments. You can also do you can give the certification even for short-term courses which are NSQF aligned. And of course, if you have a BWalk program, UGC guidelines will apply. So it can be done either way. So it is something that the university will have to build their capacity in the long run for assessments also. But in the initial stages, definitely sector skill councils are there. You can take their assistance also.
Madam, let me add only one point, rather not point. I am requesting all of you, if you like to add anything related to skill under that credit framework, and if we are thinking with these academic systems of assessment, I think we are supposed to change. Vocational program के लिए अगर कोई मोटर मैकेनिक का आपने एग्जांपल दिया, अगर किसी गैरेज में जो डेली 25 गाड़ी ठीक करते हैं, वो अगर बोल दिया इसको आता है, university has to agree. Are we ready to accept this? I think credit frameworks is allowing us to do that, but as a autonomous body, हम लोगों का भी सामूहे दिमाग का बत्ती differently जलाना पड़ेगा. I'm sorry.
And so, as he rightly said, as an autonomous institute, obviously you can have tie-ups with the industry, which help you in assessing that is in fact the best way, that they can help you to assess the candidate for the skill part. Like he said, if they are accepting, then definitely his acceptability is there in the market. Okay. So you will have to think of innovative ways in which you can do credible assessments, because as he rightly pointed out, the assessment process has to be very different from the academic assessment process. And you have to build your capacity in various ways in undertaking this kind of assessments.
Yeah, let me, in a nutshell, just to conclude that particular aspect, perhaps it's the doubt for many others also. So in a nutshell, what the panel members conclude is something like, you see, you take two different types of expertise, let me put it that way. I may be good at mathematics, someone is good at computer science. So even if I'm talking even the academic setup itself. So the person who is teaching mathematics only will assess mathematics and tell to computer science department, look, this fellow has learned this. So similarly, the understanding what the parameters is also putting forward. Like for example, now you have to come up, there has to be a system, because once this enabling is happening, there has to be a system in that vocational side also, that there will be experts who will be assessing and telling that, look, this fellow has learned this. Because you cannot bring that fellow and then ask him to do something, because we will not be able to assess perhaps. So that's why the system slowly will evolve. That's what I think is the nutshell. Yes. Yeah.
I would like to add one thing. What Madam Binta Agarwal Madam was telling to obtain a status of awarding body. I am from National Institute of Open Schooling. NCVT has given us a state recognition of awarding body. Similarly, you are from SIGIN board. So you can, for assessing, you are from university. Okay, so you can obtain, for assessing these vocational courses, you can obtain this status by applying to NCVT, this status of awarding body. Let me resolve this issue.
And I just want to add one more thing to it. So in the vocational space, In fact, like in your regular academic programs, you talk about assistant professors, professors who are there. So in the VET space, we talk about professors of practice.
Yeah.
And that is something the UGC has also brought out some guidelines on that. So you have to look at professors of practice who are very good in their area, in their field of skill. They may not be academically a PhD or anything. So you have to make space for professors of practice, for master trainers, and of course, industry tie-ups. These could be innovative ways. The university can evolve its own innovative ways for assessment.
Good afternoon to all. I am from Central Institute of Petrochemical Engineering and Technology, CPET Guwahati.
Right.
So we already have different skill-related courses and diploma, post-diploma, BTech, MTech, all are NSQF aligned. We have 36 NSQF aligned courses. My question today is, we are conducting some awareness programs, especially for like state government, school, colleges, and universities in Assam. And for that, those exposure courses actually like around 1 day or 2 days, that means 16-hour courses we are offering, exposure visit we are doing. So how best we can, the credit system we can introduce in those exposure visits so that the student may be benefited. And similarly for industry also, we are conducting 1 day programs that's very specific for industries. So how we can introduce this credit system? Can you give some?
That will be a separate module we can discuss.
We already have certain provisions. Whatever you are saying, that awareness programs pertains to certain kinds of outcomes. It is, everything has to be outcome based. You have designed something, it has to be an outcome. If there is no outcome based, there is no program as such. If you see, we have already mentioned that something called micro credentials. If you have got certain small packets of learning, which you can give it to somebody by organizing some awareness programs, some workshop like we are carrying out now. Such kind of things are there. It is mentioned that as a micro credential, which can be of maximum 30 hours. It can be of 16 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, multiple of 15. Or to get it credited, as we said, 30 hours equal to 1 credit. So we do have such kind of provision. Only thing that you have to devise as an autonomous body or a voting body, what is to be done subsequently, how is to be credited.
I think your question, like he's clarified that with industry, if you're doing awareness workshops, that's what you are saying, you're doing
Yes, ma'am.
awareness workshops with industry.
Industry as well as for the students like from schools and colleges.
Actually, if you go through the NCRF document, you will find, you'll have to mark out which are the areas, where each stakeholder, some examples and something has been given in the NCRF document. Like you mentioned for industry, I'd also mentioned it in my presentation, like if they are doing their own internal training programs, how they can give credits to their own staff for the trainings, how those trainings can be recognized, can be assessed. So there is a provision of National Occupational Standards, which is basically a module in which they can give training, or in micro credentials, if it is a higher executive level program of maybe just 1 day, 7.5 hours to say maximum 30 hours training. That also can be assessed and a credit can be given for that. So for industry, that is important. So there are a lot of ways in which the industry can also, their staff can also earn credits. And how industry can be also mainstreamed in the entire process, can be a part of that. They are a biggest partner in the skilling ecosystem. That also, so you will have to actually draw references from the National Credit Framework document.
मैडम, सीबीएसई का मॉडल आपके लिए सहायक होगा. हम लोग 16 घंटे का स्किल मॉड्यूल तैयार किया है, which are being offered from grade 6 onwards. अभी उसको क्रेडिट नहीं दिया है because once credit framework should be notified, parallelly we'll work through whether it can be fit into this micro credit systems or not. Now, under that, because NEP talks about class 6 onwards आपको skilling कराना है. But school में, many of the school principals are sitting here. School में, which subjects to replace, ये अभी यहाँ forum में बोलेंगे, parents, teacher, principal का बीच में लड़ाई होगा. So that would be decided based on the national curriculum framework, which will be out very soon for under a new education policy. But in the existing pattern, we have a multiple courses like data science, coding, artificial intelligence, beauty and wellness, tourism, etc. Now, similarly, what my CPET colleague has mentioned, can you think of something concrete which you can turn as a vocational exposure module, which you want to introduce for 16 hours? Then, if you are already prepared something, you can write to us, maybe for the Northeastern CBSE schools. You can pilot in some 10, 15 schools, and then based on the outcome, you can give us a concrete proposal. And once this national credit frameworks would be fully operational, then whatever Colonel Gunjan has said, I think micro-credential is a big opportunity for all of us to gain. Thank you.
Just to add for everybody's knowledge, like AICTE has already developed a matrix for vocational education that is called Skill Assessment Matrix for Vocational Advancement of Youth. That is somewhere.
Somewhere.
आप उस पे जाएंगे तो you will get an idea. For example, industry visits को कितने credit देने हैं. Like 1 credit 15 hours, practical 1 credit 30 hours. If you are going for experiential learning, including relevant experience and professional level required.
नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क सारे चीज एज्यूम कर लिया.
I'd like to ask one question. I'm from Assam Top Oxford University. So if we are implementing this 4 years graduation program from the next academic year, so my query is, if a person completes his 10 course and wants to join graduation program, didn't do any formal education for 11th and 12th. If he does this MOOCs courses and other vocational courses, if it equates the grades, so can we, that will be included?
No. So as I had explained in the presentation, that there is a concept of assessment bands. So in order to undertake a UG program, the assessment band of class 12 has to be crossed. So when, if a learner has gone through these courses, different types of skill courses and earned credits, those credits will make him or her eligible to undertake assessment of class 12. He needn't go through the formal learning of 1200 hours plus. He can, but he has to undertake the assessment. And for 12th board assessment, once he clears that, so that will give him eligibility for appearing for the 12th board exams. And then they can move on to the UG program.
You can see the on the table. You can see in the tables that there are dotted lines.
Yes.
And there are
bold lines.
Bold lines are the assessment bands. Dotted lines are the intermediary, like between 11th and 12th. There would be you see there is a dotted line. So there is a band between band of 11th and 12th. You have to clear that. It cannot happen that you can jump. And regarding entry, what it was discussed also, how into 12th you can get entry into 12th. You see the diagram. There we have given an example of 4 ways. There can be n number of ways subject to as we move ahead. Presently, we have identified how somebody can get a 12th or equivalent certificate. These are the things. So the sky is the limit. We have to find a way. Doors are open.
But assessment is mandatory.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will go down to all. So here.
Okay. Yeah.
My question is on the validity of the credits. Because what we hear is any autonomous institution or regulator can award credit. So if at all, in the document, if we read the document, so also the presentation, we can see that autonomous regulator or an institution can award these credits. So the EBC, which we are talking about, the academic band of credit. So if these autonomous regulator or institution are not properly defined, who exactly are these institutions that can award these credits, be it for school education or for vocational education? Because it is welcoming to see that we are on the same platform where vocational education is not taken as a separate or as a lower standard of learning. So it is at par with school education. So these autonomous bodies, can that be elaborated or be defined? Why I'm saying that, the reason is because we're talking about who gives credit here. So will my credit
after I have been awarded, will that be accumulated into my EBC? If at all it's not being credited, then what is the point of me taking a course at any state or at any level? So school education or vocational education. First question. Second question is for learning outcomes. It is important for assessment to be based on learning outcomes. So we have a standard document for the learning outcomes at the school level, which is developed by the NCERT. So by newborn for the preschool education. But a different course can be taken from another state. So if the validity is not there, if there is no set of standards, then whether these things make sense or not. And lastly, we're talking about credit transfer. So when we are talking about the inter-transfer of credits, be it from one board, from university or from an institution, now ma'am in the presentation also has said that I can take subject EB from one institution, perhaps C from another institution. So is there any maybe a clear-cut maybe guidelines that can say there is an interest transfer from a state board to a central board or likewise? Thank you so much.
So
this transfer of subject?
The first sequence.
Transfer. Okay. So the first question you talked about that defining autonomous institutions, who will award credits? So when we say the regulator, so regulator can be UGC, AICT, NCVT, school boards, technical boards, they're all regulators in their own field. And the autonomous institutions are institutions which are affiliated to these part of this regulatory framework, and autonomy has been granted. I think it is very well defined which are the institutions which will have autonomy. So by the regulators themselves. So it is these institutions which can determine their own course. For instance, suppose IITs are there or universities are there, colleges are there. So it depends on the national NITs are there. So it depends upon who are these autonomous institutions who have been granted that kind of autonomy by the central legislation, state legislation, or the regulators themselves. Then you also talked about validity. So yes, the credits can have a validity, but that is again to be defined by the institution or by the regulator. And so either there is a validity, or if the regulator decides that these credits can be there forever, they can be there forever. But once you have redeemed those credits, for instance, you've utilized those credits to move up, progress to another course, those credits will be debited from your account. Then they are gone. So that is another thing. Then you talked about learning outcomes for skills. So for learning outcomes for skills, you must have heard we have the National Skills Qualification Framework, which is based on learning outcomes. So all the qualifications that are developed for skill training, they define everything in terms of learning outcomes. Just now somebody had mentioned about National Qualification Register that is there on our website, on NCVT website, where you can see over 5,000 qualifications. They're all learning outcomes have been defined. So those are the ones, and those are standards which are across the country. So there would be uniformity in that. Yes.
Let it complete. To add it to ma'am, whatever she said about that once credit is redeemed, that credit actually is redeemed, but it's there to acknowledge your learnings. Though you cannot redeem it further, but to acknowledge your learning, that presence will always be there so that we know, or anybody who's enrolling you would know that you have gone through such kind of program and you have earned this kind of credit.
Sir, I am from Madhuvdev University. I am from Madhuvdev University.
Just a second. I request the delegate better to stand so that you know.
Yes.
Can I just complete? Yeah, I think.
I am just.
So it's not redeeming the credit, but the validity or the authenticity of the credit. So if one institution is, I have accumulated 40 credits, okay, from one institution. My credits isn't valid. So that's why I'm talking about the autonomous institution or regulator. So like you have said, from these institutions. But these institutions under which they are affiliated and recognized. So the levels are different. So it's not only at the high level, but we're talking about the ground level here now. So the validity is...
Madam, I got, we all got your questions. Issue is that, first of all, think of the present system. Whether Guwahati University's mark sheet is recognized by Delhi University or not. आज का तारीख में भी होता है. Kaldi Credit is giving a facility wherein Academic Bank of Credit, they are, whatever child is accumulating, it would be stored there under DigiLocker. Now, your valid point is whether a graded university is going to recognize or accept the credit awarded by a degraded university. This is $1 million question. Unless until IIT Guwahati or IIT BHU accept this joint degree program, ये दोनों इंस्टीट्यूट म्यूचुअली बात किया. नाउ नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क एक बेंचमार्किंग सॉल्यूशन दे रहा है जिसका आधार पे नागालैंड यूनिवर्सिटी कैन टॉक टू विद मिजोरम यूनिवर्सिटी, दे कैन आल्सो टॉक टू विद आईआईटी मद्रास. अभी वो स्टैंडर्ड डेविएट होगा या स्टैंडर्ड एट पार होगा, दैट नीड टू बी डिसाइडेड initially inter-institutional mechanisms. Gradually, over a period of 5 years, 10 years, जब a standstill हो जाएगा, then it becomes a routine activity. आज का तारीख में हम लोगों को कंसल्टेटिव मीटिंग के लिए भी यहाँ आने की आवश्यकता क्या है? सबको सब कुछ आता है. Only thing is that how to make it aware. This is a robust program through which children, learners is going to be benefited. So learner centric जो approach है credit framework का, that need to be instilled. Otherwise सारे विद्वान लोग यहाँ पे बैठा हुआ है, आपको credit framework 2 दिन में समझ आ जाएगा, लेकिन बाजार को भी समझ में आना पड़ेगा. And that's why we are humbly requesting, get involved into it and give us the multiple solution so that a under national new education policy में a accept हो जाए. Okay. Not that.
By the way, I'm from Nagaland University. But just to get an example of what is those institutions? NEC 100, NEC A and NIN 100 cannot be transferred the credit. That circular was there. Maybe with time,
Okay, so this is before national credit framework.
Yes.
So those arrangements will have to be worked out. So it is an enabling provision that you can today talk to from one university to another.
Yes.
And talk about exchanging acceptance of credits. Earlier you could not do that. So that framework is provided by NCRF. Ultimately, you will have to work out with every other institution. That is the first point. And the second point, which I had also mentioned in the presentation, that sometimes if you've done a course and you've earned credit for something and you want to apply, say, in IIT Guwahati, now those credits may make you eligible to go there, to apply for that course. But for admission, they may say, no, you have to, write this exam also. There's an admission test you have to go through. So that everybody has to go through. So these arrangements will have to be worked out.
Question. Some kind of clarifying guidelines regarding ABC. Because when I was dealing with the undergraduate courses, everybody was interested about the ABC. Transfer of credit. But sometimes it might mislead the students. For example, suppose I am from chemistry. This much credit is required, 4 papers to get the chemistry BSc degree. Suppose the student goes for 1 semester sociology or something else, he will be losing the specialization or not. Suppose I have got 140 credits to get my BSc in chemistry. If a student does 60 credit from chemistry, 30 credit from political science, 40 credit from these different subjects. As for the NEP initial guidelines says, they will not get the subject as specialization. That will be called BA liberal arts.
So when you talk of the ABC, maybe the guidelines should be make it clear okay, how much course is required for the students.
So definitely those guidelines will have to be developed. Each regulator, each autonomous institution will have to develop guidelines. So there has to be an implementation and operationalization plan, which has to be developed.
If you see this table as such, we are not leaving any learning of yours unaddressed. May I have your attention, please? Every learning is being addressed. You see the second row. If you see that even if somebody quits or somebody leaves because of some reason or so, even after first year of UG, presently there is no provision. They just leave. I am first year, but you don't have any credential to yourself. Now here we are giving. There is a provision for getting a UG certificate. If somebody leaves after, same thing for chemistry also. If they had done some credits, they would get certain kind of certification. In second year, they get a UG diploma. In third year, they will get a degree. And fourth year, it is a honors or some research, and it can be further added to it. So whatever you said that certain credits or chemistry he or she has done, and that credit shall be there and it will be acknowledged.
To add that, so for example, your question largely deals with the credit structure, isn't it? Major and minor and all. See, UGC has finalized the curricular and credit structure for 4-year undergraduate program. I can share with you largely the structure. For example, based on the National Credit Framework, we have set as the minimum 20 credits per semester and 40 per year. So for a 3-year student, it will be 120 credits, or a 4-year student, it will be 160. So largely we are setting the 50% of the credits one should earn in a particular subject to earn the degree in that particular discipline. So when it comes to, this is for single major. Double major, first major should be 50%, second major should be 40%. This is the largest structure. In addition to that, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary are there. When it comes to multidisciplinary, all the subjects involved in that multidiscipline, the 50% of the credit will be equally distributed. This is how we are planning. Okay, this will be published by next week.
So this is what? So for every program, they will define that what is going to be the structure of the course. That's what exactly Mr. Santosh Kumar wanted to.
I am from Madhavdev University.
Just 1 minute, let him just complete.
I am from Madhavdev University.
Just hold on, please. Just a moment.
All the people who are working in education sector here in Northeast total, I think this is a very revolutionary structure what is coming out from the multiple organizations like UGC and CBT, very revolutionary in the sense that it will change complete ecosystem, what we have not seen our recent many years since independence. We have not seen that this type of transferability or accreditation, whatever you have discovered since this 70 years, you have an opportunity to do it better now. Everybody is a stakeholder here. Those who are working in education, like Madam said that, and see the document what is said, built on the foundational pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. So the mandate given to this National Credit Framework is very broad, very broad. So you first have to discover the things. Where is your malaise? Where is shortcomings? There are 3 stages for any evolution of thought or any implementation of thought. First, you have to discover, then you have to discuss, and then disrupt. You are disrupting. The education policy is running from first 5-year plan. Now you are disrupting. So the first stage is discover. We have discovered yesterday, we visited ITI. Some principal is sitting here also. ITI Guwahati. The candidate, 70% candidate are those who are joining ITI is graduate. There is a discovery. So we are the very initial stage. Mind it, if you have a given opportunity, you have to work on it. Everybody has to suggest it. How the people are coming. 70% people after taking 5 years of life in a dark tunnel and suddenly join ITI. So how they will be credited that 5 years and then again ITI. They have a chance to join ITI after 10. So this Certainly, I will also see a tea garden estate. A person is working since 20 years with the same salary. So, multi things. Not only, I am also looking after the labor ministry also. We have a 27 crore data of unorganized sector, 13 crore data of organized sector. Well, and the minimum wages for skilled, say, some 20 years experience, or some is a BTech, he's working as a data entry operator. So where there are multiple questions involved, so before getting to any framework, before getting into documented and get sanctioned approved by the government, we have to thought it, we have to think it. You all are welcome. You all are welcome in discussion. There is a website he's saying, Mahapi will write it. We can see the two things very important, admission and employment. It is linked. This credit rating, and then after there should be an indexing or grading system. Their admission can be done. All collectors, all people, all organization, all industry selecting some criteria for employment. So if this happened, the credit framework with some indexing later on and grading, so everybody has to not apply to mind. Simply select the candidate who has a good credit and thereafter grading. So your work is very, if you go by this document, access, equity and quality, so you are giving a tool to any employment generation authority. He just see a credit and just see his indexing or ranking or grading and make a decision who will be given employment. So this is, I am saying, reading through this document, who have been prepared this document, it's a very good document. It's a game-changing document. It document whole ecosystem of employment, admission, education, everything. So please give your mandate.
I'm from Madhavdev University, and we are implementing NEP 2020 from this academic session in undergraduate program. And this is the first university of implementing NEP 2020. So in Assam, we are facing some problems in implementing the NEP 2020 as per the curriculum framework and credit system of four-year undergraduate program as drafted by the UGC. Apart from vocational courses or skill enhancement courses or value-based courses like NCC, NSS, and the main area of studies, domain area of studies, there is a provision for studying natural science, humanities, and social science as in the IIT GS given by Professor Krishna. So suppose I am taking chemistry as my main domain of studies in first semester, and should I learn natural sciences or basic sciences along with chemistry? If I am a student I am enrolling in sociology or economics or political science, so do you need to study social science or humanities subject? Because in the credit framework, in the curriculum framework and credit system, of UGC is drafted, there is a provision of 9 credit each in natural science or basic science, humanities and social science in first 4 semester. So is it necessary? And in Assam, about 80 to 90% of the colleges are single disciplinary, single faculty colleges. If a college with only arts faculty or a commerce faculty or a science faculty, it will be difficult for giving these other areas. If science students, they need to learn humanities and social science. Similarly, the students from social science like economics, they need to study physics or astrophysics as given in the framework or subject. So it will be difficult. So that should be clarified. So my first question is that. Thank you.
Please.
Sir, the credit curricular and credit framework UGC has put on the public domain couple of months back. It has underwent a lot of changes now. Earlier it mentioned that first 3 semesters all students will be exposed to all disciplines based on the National Education Policy's recommendation. Now the one which we have finalized now going to come out next week, it is just mentioning the first 2 semesters. and not all disciplines, whatever the student have not learned in the +2 level, at the +2 level, those subjects they can select in the first 2 semesters only. So overall, there will be 4 to 5 disciplines each student can explore. In the first semester itself, they will take a major and minor, but first 2 semesters, they can select few more disciplines, and at the end of second semester, they can finalize which one they want as a major and minor. So there is a choice. And your next questions are that how to transform this. In between, UGC has come out with another guidelines, how to transform higher education institutions into multidisciplinary institutions, like collaborations between them. For example, the NCT has recently come out with the regulation ITEP, Integrated Teacher Education Program. So for that, these guidelines will enable, for example, a B.Ed college, they may be running only B.Ed courses, isn't it? If there is a nearby commerce college or science college or arts college, they can come together and offer the ITEP program, Integrated Teacher Education Program. The science, if it is a BSc B.Ed courses, education program will be run by the B.Ed college and science program will be offered by the nearby science college. Thereby, they can become a multidisciplinary institution. Like this, there are so many options given in that guidelines. You can please go through, and we have to slowly convert towards multidisciplinary institutions, because by NEP.
Certainly, just add to Gopakumarji's points. UGC also issued another circular that you can take courses online up to 40%. Now, who stops you? There are multiple universities who come up with this content, including the MOOCs. So, wherever you feel that ITEC program or similar initiative you are not able to, because it is a far-flung districts, Northeast problems. I am also from Northeast. I know in Arunachal, some problem, Nagaland, other problem. So, there might be some problem. But we can also take the help from technology so that some way, partially, and to begin with, let us try. Overnight, ना बोलना तो सबसे आसान है. यहाँ पे सब लोग ना होगा नहीं. होगा नहीं तो बोलने के लिए 2 मिनट लगेगा. लेकिन कैसे हो सकता है?
Apart from ability enhancement courses and these main area of domain suggested, 4 method and 4 minor, and also additional open elective courses.
So I think,
all this area.
I think.
Our credit, first semester, second semester credit is 4 credits. Because we are assigning 2 credits.
No. Sir, I already mentioned. He has already clarified. It is in line with National Credit Framework.
Yes. So any other questions?
Hello, good afternoon. I am from Assam Skill University. Ma'am, I just asked one question. It's like you have mentioned about bands of 10th and 12th and then assessment. So suppose a student who is doing BVOC course, every semester he will have a OCT. So that will be assessed by the industry. So will that BVOC course credit will be equivalent to the BTech credit?
BTech credit?
Credits?
Credits are
दो डिग्री अलग.
No. So they are different.
If you see the credit system, so suppose a student he has done some BVOC course and he does OGT. So OGT will be placed in the industry and the industry will assess him and give him some credits.
Right.
So
First of all, madam, what do you want?
Can I answer that question? This is Dr. N.S. Kalsi.
Yes.
Remote location.
Yes, understand, eh?
Sir.
Sir, please, sir.
Sir, please.
देखिए ऐसा है कि अगर हम BVOC के कोर्सेज की बात कर रहे हैं तो BVOC का जो फर्स्ट ईयर का कोर्स है लेवल 4.5 पर है, सेकंड ईयर 5 पर है और थर्ड ईयर 5.5 पर है. कोर्सेज के कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स हैं जो BVOC के लिए सिलेक्ट किए गए हैं. इसी तरह से जो बीटेक के सब्जेक्ट्स हैं वो सब्जेक्ट्स उसके करिकुलर स्ट्रक्चर के हिसाब से सिलेक्ट किए गए हैं, चाहे AICTE के प्रिस्क्राइब्ड हैं, चाहे अगर कोई एक इंडिपेंडेंट यूनिवर्सिटी है जो ऑफर कर रही है या स्किल यूनिवर्सिटी है जो ऑफर कर रही है, तो आपका अपना डिजाइन कोर्स है. आप ये बिल्कुल कर सकती हैं कि अगर बीटेक में आप ऐसे कोर्सेज ले आए जो बीवॉक के कुछ कोर्सेज से अलाइंड हों, और अगर वो अलाइंड है तो जो बीवॉक में बच्चा जो क्रेडिट्स लेता है उस क्रेडिट को आप बीटेक में कंसिडर कर सकती हैं। लेकिन उसके लिए आपको जो अपना ओवरऑल जो कोर्स का स्ट्रक्चर है वो बीवॉक के स्ट्रक्चर के साथ आपको कंपेयर करना पड़ेगा और देखना पड़ेगा कि इसमें कितना कॉमन है या क्या इसको मैं एज इट इज कंसिडर कर सकती हूँ। दूसरा इसमें आप ये भी कर सकती हैं कि अगर बीवॉक का जो कोर्स है उसमें कुछ चीजें कम है तो उसके लिए कुछ एडिशनल उसको क्रेडिट्स करा के मे बी अगर वो 3 क्रेडिट का कोर्स आपने मानना
Yeah. Hey, yes, please say.
So my experience from schooling, we have given a lot of options for the student right now. So if suppose the student has chosen in class 12 physics, BSc, history and economy, after passing out class 12, in which stream he is supposed to do his undergraduate course? First question. And one more question. Since I am from International School Guwahati, we are running IGCSE curriculum for last 10 years. So I am teaching in both the curriculum. I would like to share 2 incidents with you all. One of my student of class 8, in class 9 we are supposed to take up science, arts or commerce. So one of the girls, she opted commerce, but she was very good in science. After passing class 10, she could not get good marks, and then she realized that her decision was wrong. So at the age of class 8, when a student is in class 8 and you are opting them or you are giving a chance to choose science, arts or commerce, do you think they are mature enough to take decision for their life?
First of all,
After 10th now, not after 8th.
Yeah, after 8 only.
No, after 10th. Choice of subject.
Choice
not
of,
after
yes.
8th. Correct. Not after 8th.
Not after 8. And regarding class 12, if such type of combinations are there, if student is going for such type of combination, what to do? In which option he will be going for the undergraduate program?
Let me answer this question, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Are your school also running CBSE curriculum?
Yes, sir.
So just let me tell you the scheme of studies. वो scheme में आपका थोड़ा confusion है. CBSE में one language and any 4 subjects. Any 4 means physics with music, chemistry with legal studies, and history with tourism. So any flexibility, and CBSE is the only board I can say in the world जो grade 11, 12 में compartmentalizations नहीं करते हैं. If you have talked about IGC, IB, वहाँ पे bucketing pattern है, including many of our state board. Bucketing pattern means ये 3 bucket में डाला जाता है, science, humanities and commerce, because of the UG pattern. NEP उसको तोड़ना चाहते हैं. NEP उसको तोड़ना चाहते हैं, और CBSE में जो प्रॉब्लम आप लोग फेस करते हो टाइम टेबल के लिए, दिस इज नॉट द राइट फोरम टू डिस्कस, बिकॉज ऑफ दिस काइंड ऑफ इनोवेटिव कॉम्बिनेशंस ऑप्टेड बाय द स्टूडेंट. टाइम टेबल लंबा खींचते हैं. वी गिव द एनॉर्मस फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, और देयर आर मेनी पास आउट जो यूनिवर्सिटी सिस्टम्स भी अलाउ करते हैं. यूनिवर्सिटी सिस्टम्स में एक डिफरेंट ब्यूटी है. पीसीएम वालों को इंग्लिश ऑनर्स भी मिलता है, हिस्ट्री ऑनर्स भी मिल जाता है. देयर आर फ्यू एक्सेप्शनल यूनिवर्सिटी जहां पे वो नहीं पढ़ पाता है. वो जहां जिस प्रदेश से हम लोग आए हैं उस जगह का 1-2 यूनिवर्सिटी ऐसा करते हैं. बाकी भू भारत में मैक्सिमम यूनिवर्सिटी अलाउज दैट क्रॉस ट्रांजिशन बिटवीन द सब्जेक्ट, दैट टू ऑल्सो एट द यूजी लेवल. आईआईटी में खुद हम लोग बैठे हैं, आईआईटी में 10% मोबिलिटी बोल रहे हैं विदाउट सीइंग एनीथिंग. अभी I liked your presentation that एवरी स्टूडेंट जिसको सिविल इंजीनियरिंग मिला है उसको पहले जो हम लोगों का इंजीनियरिंग का टाइम में जिसको 8 से ऊपर सीजीपीए मिलता था उसको फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर का बाद अपॉर्चुनिटी दिया जाता था, तुम चूज कर सकते हो दूसरा स्ट्रीम। लेकिन इन्होंने बोला लोअर क्रेडेंशियल्स वालों को भी दे मे गेट ए अपॉर्चुनिटी। दिस इज कॉल्ड फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी व्हिच लर्नर सेंट्रिक एजुकेशन वी मस्ट एडहेयर। मैं बार बार एक ही चीज में स्ट्रेस कर रहा हूं जो नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क और एनईपी देने का प्रयास कर रहा है। थैंक यू।
Just to add to what he has said, see, we are talking about the existing systems. But when we are talking about NCRF, we are looking at what is going to happen in the future.
Yes.
So we have to move from this mindset of that the child has done this, which university will accept it. The universities will also change as per the NCRF. So the opportunities, the idea is it is learner centric. Idea is that the opportunities for the learner increases. So we cannot look at universities in the same pattern which has been followed so far. So all those changes are happening and will happen, where the child can exercise his or her choice.
एक छोटा सा एडिशन करूंगा कि इसमें यूनिवर्सिटी विल नॉट चेंज, यूनिवर्सिटी शैल हैव टू चेंज।
Exactly.
Because जो NCRF है, that is mandatory for everyone.
Everybody.
ये किसी के मन की इच्छा नहीं है कि मेरा मन है तो मैंने कर लिया, नहीं है तो नहीं किया. This is a national system and everyone will have to align with this.
Yes.
Just I wanted to add what Dr. Saha was telling about the flexibility being given by CBSE. Open and distance learning like NIS is already given for the long back. We have given opportunity to the learners to take vocational subjects along with academic subjects like that. Thank you.
Sir, hello.
Yes.
I'm representing Open University. Krishnakant Academy is still Open University.
This is
One
a
of the Open University in that.
should send their opinion.
Sir, regarding NCRF, we have gone through the entire documents. But we have a different in terms of pedagogy and our learner profile is also varied. From 18 years to in service, housewife, self-employed, even aged person also, even they remain also our learners. In that context, we are very strong at our own how to accommodate with this NCRF. But I think we need some specific guidelines from our elected bodies in UCD. We communicate with them so that some guidelines will be come. So we any specific guideline for open and distance learning to implement this NCRF.
So yours is an open school?
Open university.
University. Okay.
Because the implementing internship, giving projects, giving vocational course, dissertation.
So इसके लिए of course UGC भी अपनी guidelines बना रहा है, आप भी अपनी guidelines खुद बना सकते हैं, आपको NCRF enable करता है कि आप NCRF के according अपनी guidelines बनाएं. और उसके अलावा operation, every regulator, every institution has to come out with their own implementation guidelines and operationalization. And some kind of support we all have to see. It's an evolving area. It is evolving. It is a concept, enabling concept that is there, and it has to evolve in terms of implementation and operationalization, where we all have to work together. So some kind of mechanisms, definitely, I mean, there will be brainstorming everywhere. We are also all evolving, but it gives you a lot of empowerment to do things on your own, to set up, you know, whatever you require to set out guidelines on your own. And of course, UGC is also there, which will be bringing out their own guidelines.
Can I add something to this?
Yes, sir.
Binded by please listen to that. Pre-program approval condition is we have. That is the problem.
Dr. Kalsi wants to add. Yes, sir.
Dr. Kalsi.
Every university must keep it in mind that the entire creditization of learning is based on one single principle. Firstly, you have to define that for every program which you are offering, whether it is apprenticeship or this is internship or this is a course or this is an experiential learning, whatever you want to do, before starting that course, you have to define as to what is the nature of that course, what is the expected notional hours of learning, what are the outcomes which you are looking for at the end of that learning process, and what is the level you are assigning to that level. That is one. Secondly, you have to have so whatever question you are asking, just apply these 2 litmus tests to that question and you will get your answer automatically. Am I clear? If you have any doubt, please ask me again.
Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay, sir.
UGC DEV, we need to, for running a program, we need UGC DEV's program approval. For that, we have to submit everything. So in that case, actually, regarding implementation of NCRF or NEP 2020, we need some clear guideline whether Open University is given that autonomy that has been actually franchised by other universities. Those who can have the autonomy to create their curriculum, operate their own program. We don't have that right. Everything has to be given permission from the pre-approval of the UGC. That continues.
प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आपको सारे राइट्स मिल गए लेकिन आपको विश्वास नहीं हो रहा कि आपको राइट्स मिल गए। और अगर यूजीसी कह भी दे, यूजीसी ने कह दिया कि वी आर ओनली एन एनेबलिंग एजेंसी, यूजीसी ने एक ब्रॉड फ्रेमवर्क आपको दे दिया। उस ब्रॉड फ्रेमवर्क के बीच उन्होंने कहा कि आप कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग करो, अपनी तरफ से कोर्स डेवलप करो, जो गाइडलाइंस है उसको ब्रीच नहीं करना है। Please don't look for approvals of every small things. You have to do it at your level. Chairman UGC has said at number of occasions, especially during our consultation workshops with all the universities of the country, that it is not for UGC to prescribe everything. It is for you to do that. You look for every administrative solution from either UGC or from the government. Please don't do that. The administrative solutions will have to come from you. UGC has given you an overall guideline, which is of course as aligned with NCRF, and NCRF is the main document, which has also the 100% approval and contribution of UGC. So इसलिए आपको उसकी चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है। उसको सब लोग मानेंगे, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं।
Thank you, Dr. Thank you. We will be concluding with one more from this side.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
So, sir, I don't have any questions, and I'm having, as our Vishwajit sir said, CBSE already given it the flexibility for subjects. But schools and parents and the teachers never accepted it, that choices.
Many of them have accepted also.
Arts, science, commerce. Sir, वही चलता है सर, क्योंकि what happens is college admission का बात आता है ना, तो फिर science पढ़ना है, BSc पढ़ना है. So that because of that and school administration में issue होता है, routine बनाना, class set करना. जैसे IIT कैंपस है तो बच्चा लोग चला जाएगा एक सब्जेक्ट के लिए एक जगह पे दूसरा, स्कूल में ऐसा नहीं होता है, टीचर घुसता है क्लास में. So there is a practical issue because of that. That system adopted college admissions की वजह से भी. So CBSE was visionary. पहले छोड़ दिया था, पहले दे दिया वैसा choices. So अभी हमारा क्या है, खाली observation है सर, अभी कोई question नहीं है. As a child, I will say hooray, because हम लोग पढ़ नहीं पाए सर. I was a science में ज़्यादा interest था, लास्ट में political science पढ़ा, है सर. So क्योंकि हमको हमारा तो choice होता तो हम भी पढ़ता था, science पढ़ता था. As a child, I will be happy. So that perception, है सर, बच्चा happy होगा क्योंकि उसको choices मिलेगा. So as a teacher क्या सोचेगा? पहले तो marks था, फिर आया CCE, grades आया, अभी credit आ गया. So स्कूल में वो already confused है सर. CCE से आके क्लास में 9 में बच्चा जमा हो जाता है सर. 8 तक नो डिटेंशन पॉलिसी, जब इशू हो गया तो बोल दिया स्टेट अपना आप कीजिए, कुछ भी कीजिए, रोकना है तो रोक लीजिए, छोड़ना है तो छोड़ दीजिए जब प्रॉब्लम आया. सो टीचर तो कंफ्यूज है ऑलरेडी. देन एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर फैसिलिटी कहाँ है भाई? I need more rooms, teachers, interdisciplinary, liberal arts, ये सब लेके आने के लिए स्कूल में बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा. वो सोचेगा एज एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, एज अ पेरेंट तो ऑलरेडी कंफ्यूज है सर. सो दिस इज माई ऑब्जर्वेशन. सो हमारा परसेप्शन जो माइंड सेट है वो चेंज करना पड़ेगा. जैसे सर बोल रहे थे, इट इज नॉट अ रिफॉर्म, इट इज अ रिवॉल्यूशन. नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क तो एक बहुत बड़ा रिवॉल्यूशनरी चीज है. तो इसको एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी, अडेप्टेबिलिटी और माइंड सेट और बिहेवियर चेंज, हमारा जो मैन पावर है, टीचर्स हैं, जो भी है, क्योंकि आईआईटी गुवाहाटी का तो अपना सेटअप है सर. आपका अंदर तो स्कूल ही है, केवी है, केवी का बच्चा यहाँ आके भी कुछ पढ़ लेगा. लेकिन हम लोग का जो गांव में रूरल अर्बन डिवाइड और बढ़ जाएगा.
ऐसा नहीं सब.
हाँ सर.
इट्स अगेन माइंडसेट. नहीं करना है तो 10 problems we can cite, 10 confusions also we can raise.
No.
But करना पड़ेगा. चेयरमैन साहब ने भी बोला है और सरकार ऑलरेडी स्कोप बना के रखा है. वी हैव टू कंफ्यूजन बोलेंगे तो और बाकी लोग यहाँ पे भी और कंफ्यूजन हो जाएंगे. क्या जरूरत है?
एक छोटी सी एडिशन है इसमें मेरी तरफ से. एक छोटी सी एडिशन है इसमें मैं करना चाहूंगा कि ये रिफॉर्म नहीं है, ये रिफॉर्मेशन नहीं है, ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है.
बिल्कुल सर.
अगर मैं 100 के स्केल पे देखूं तो अगर जो रिफॉर्मेशन है वो 25 पर है तो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन 100 पर है. तो इसको काइंडली प्लीज डोंट कॉल इट रिफॉर्मेशन, दिस इज ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन. सो यू हैव टू ट्रांसफॉर्म द माइंडसेट.
एक और है कि ये केवल स्कूल है सर, ये केवल स्कूल एजुकेशन के 26 करोड़ बच्चों से नहीं जुड़ा हुआ है. 26 करोड़ अनदर जो अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड स्किल सेक्टर के लोग हैं उसको भी जोड़ रहा है. आप इसको भी तो समझिए कि ये 52 करोड़ के इंडियन का सवाल है. इसलिए आप इसको 26 करोड़ जो स्कूल एजुकेशन बच्चे हैं और 26 करोड़ जो बाहर अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर में स्किल लेवल पड़ा हुआ है, इन दोनों को जोड़ा जा रहा है. इससे इज ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, इज वेरी राइट, इज ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन.
और इनके पेरेंट्स को मत भूलिए, पेरेंट्स भी साथ हैं.
हाँ सर, वो 26 करोड़ हो जाएंगे सर.
I think, no. What? Yeah. Then the panel members.
Yeah. Last week individual questions ले लेंगे.
Okay. So this is the last.
So, funding was involved. The national credit framework may not be very fully, but partially we have asked. So, maybe curious because I want to know if we have already discussed about it. Here is some one thing we have PhD also. Which we call India also in many universities. We call DSC, big. So I have never find anything discussing on
BSc DD.
So maybe it's beyond the party of each but how we now whether it will be not that credit framework for
What is he saying? I didn't understand. So this is degree beyond PhD.
Yeah, DSc and DLED. DSc, DLED, this kind of nomenclatures are there. So it can be discussed.
That can be. Yes.
Already, because National Credit Framework and as our UGC representative is also there, National Higher Education Framework, both merged together to unify it in a way. So these nomenclatures can be further discussed.
Yes,
of course.
I think this session, as I have requested, the members, if you have some queries or some discussions, panel members are available. Maybe during lunch, you can interact with them and ask your queries. Thank you for this interaction.
I would like to thank on behalf of the panel members, I would like to thank you all for participating it very actively. And we could not take all your queries because of the paucity of time and constraints. But as flashed on the screen, we are available at this email ID. You can send any kind of your observations, queries or comments, be it positive, negative, whatever you feel like, everything is welcome. And preferably if it could be sent by 30th of November, after that we will start compiling, and also if given a chance or we get a chance, we will respond to your query in wholesome manner. Thank you.
The national curriculum.
Listening to the question, and then actually our chairman of CDP, Dr. Nimal Sikazli. Thank you, sir, for enthusiastically responding to most of the queries that we asked here. May I now request Professor Hemant B. Kaushik, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Online Program, IIT Guwahati, kindly give the closing remarks.
Like जो था ना मैम 1784 का वो कौन सा एजुकेशन मेटकाफ क्या नाम था कॉलेज एजुकेशन रिफॉर्म.
Thank you. Vote of thanks.
Okay. For any awareness workshop or stakeholders consultation written here to become successful, it is very essential and important that a good interaction takes place between all the stakeholders. And I'm really glad to see today that excellent interaction taking place between you, all the stakeholders, and the people who have actually made this policy. Various nitty-gritties related to the implementation of NCRF was discussed today, and it was expected because it's a new document for all of us, and the implementation of any new thing in a country, big country like ours, is really challenging. So it has to happen in a very systematic manner over a long period of time. Finally, I can tell you that NCRF tells us what we can do. It has enabled us, it has given us action. The institution mapping, the credit mapping, various nitty-gritties that has to be decided by us. So in my opinion, we should not ask questions related to implementation to these students. We have to suggest some options. That is this possible? For this thing, we have to suggest this. In my area, which is different than your area, can I do this? Rather than asking how to do this. So that is essential in this. Particularly because it's a new thing, like Dr. Tulsi has said, it's a transformation. It's a revolution, of course, because we are going to change many aspects. So institutions will have to work themselves on proper implementation. And in summary, it was a wonderful session where we witnessed insights from different stakeholders and practical problems that we discussed that may arise during implementation of NCRF. It is certain that NCRF will have all these issues addressed sufficiently and seamlessly before the implementation. So thank you for sparing your time, and let's give the panel members a very big hand. And let us give all the stakeholders, the participants also very big hand for this. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Kaushik. I've also been tasked with the mandated task of proposing the vote of thanks. So on behalf of the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, I would like to first thank Honorable Minister of State for Education, Government of India, Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh Ji, for sharing this message with us. I would also like to thank Chairman NCBT, Dr. Nimal Singh Kaushik, for being here with us online and responding to all the queries. Madam Dr. Vinita Agarwal, thank you so much for the presentation and for chairing this second session. Would like to thank all the resource persons, Dr. Vinita Agarwal and Lieutenant Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary from NCBT and the team, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, Chief Controller of Accounts, Ministry of MSD.
Santosh Kumar.
Santosh Kumar, yes. Mr. Praveet Kumar, Deputy Director, MDSC, Lieutenant Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary, I mentioned. Dr. N. Gopu Kumar, Joint Secretary, EGC, Dr. T. N. Giri, Director, Vocational Studies and iOS, Lieutenant Colonel Akhil Sharma, Assistant Director, AICTE, Dr. Buswajit Saha, Director, CBSE, all the delegates representing here, the different universities, different academic institutions in Northeast, especially those who have come from faraway places, Nagaland, from Meghalaya, from Manipur, and Madhya Pradesh, thank you. for enthusiastically taking part. I would also like to thank Mr. Sumit Kakkar, Deputy Secretary, Ministry of Education, and Mr. Jain, who has helped us a lot yesterday while setting up all these systems. I would like to thank all the officials of the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. A sincere gratitude also to our director, who was there with us in the inaugural session. All officials of the academic section of IIT Guwahati, led by Professor K. V. Krishna, our Dean, by Professor Guru Pradhan, our Associate Dean of Postgraduate Programs, Professor Vimal Mandal, our Associate Dean of Undergraduate Programs, and Professor Himal Kaushik, our Associate Dean of Online Program. I would also like to thank especially our colleagues from the Center for Educational Technology for helping us with all the setup that we have, the support that we have in this particular event, and all our colleagues who are giving the support outside. Thank you very much. And once again, I would encourage everyone to give a warm round of applause to all of us for this. And may I request all of us to join us for lunch outside? Thank you.
Just need one panel का photo लेना. Akhil, please sit down. एक बार panel का photo लेना. ये वो आपके लिए. Lady in yellow. कहाँ गई? It's coming.
सारिका. पास भी रहेगा इनके पेपर हमारे पास आएंगे.